Aaron Rodgers, this has been going on for a while, guys. This has not just happened today. There has been a contentious relationship that really began last year when the Packers took Love and did not tell Aaron Rodgers and then claimed they told Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
Okay, so that's where it really began. And they still claim they told him. They did not tell him beforehand. All right, whereas a team like the Buccaneers have gone to like Tom Brady this year and said, hey, just in case we go quarterback, would you teach him when you – that's really how you're supposed to do it. So it started there. Okay, and then it trickled down and got worse and worse and worse. And then this offseason where they decided to kind of basically put him on a series of one-year deals because that's what they do with his contract. And then it just got worse. But it got to the point where Aaron made it very clear he wanted out, right? And other teams were so afraid to jump in there because of tampering and whatnot, and nobody really thought it was real. And then, man, I first got word 3 weeks ago that, hey, we really think this might be real. And then I think even Aaron's people said, okay, it's Aaron, but he's gonna calm down. And not only has he not calmed down,
he's escalated.
He's escalated. He's doubled down. He has dug his heels in, and maybe in his mind he can go do TV and Jeopardy. And for anybody who says they have an in on what they're going to do with Jeopardy, they're full of crap. There's no Jeopardy insider here, okay? But, man, he has more options than I think a normal player could if he decides to. But, yeah, I don't know how this what I can tell you is he's not going to go to San Francisco. They're not going to trade him in the conference. Now, is Denver trying, or a team like the Raiders? Yeah, they're going to jump in. They'd be crazy not to. You'd be fools not to. I don't know if the Packers, if they can look at this and go, okay, do we have the chutzpah to do this and trade him before the draft, or we just sit there and hope it gets better? I don't know if it gets better.
Interesting, right? Because if you're Green Bay, I mean, how could you even think of trading the MVP of the league?
I mean, it's so crazy
because traded Favre.
Yeah, I mean,
fair.
They did. That is at
about the same time in his career too, right?
Having played there, having spent 3 years as a player there, and having so many connections in the scouting world, they operate differently in Green Bay when it comes to how they get down and how they go through the process and picking players and skill guys and those things. And it's unfortunate that this is almost coming full circle back for Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers came in while Brett Favre was kind of going through this stuff, and he waited 3 years before he got a shot while Favre was going through it. And now they pick, Jordan Love, and you have this soap opera that's beginning to run. I just wonder, with the new CBA and all the fines and those things, how does he handle it that way? Because in my mind, I'm saying, what leverage does he have besides withholding his services? But it's so punitive.
That's it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. You could say I'm not showing up, and you guys might as well gut something for me because I'm not going to play for you. And that's what the risk they run. But they might look at it and go, "Hey, we've been through this before with Favre, even though it was a different crew."
Yeah,
and a lot of players say they're never going to play for you again. It happens a lot, right? Yeah. We've seen it. And most of the times, right? You've been there. Yeah. And most of the times, it works itself
I gave
out.
money back to get out of Washington.
Right?
Yeah. What's interesting about Aaron Rodgers is when I look at the situation and how it's played out, a lot of times we may lose sight of the fact that it's a respect deal, right? I mean, he's done so much for the game itself, and he's done so much for the Green Bay Packers. So when you take a look at drafting Jordan Love in the manner in which you did, and then they come up short because they didn't have enough offense in the playoffs last year, and just the look on his face when he had to embrace Tom Brady after that game. Listen, you can act as though having a successful year makes everything okay, and there's a kumbaya moment that takes place during the course of the season. But let's be real here, guys. You get disrespected in that manner. You use a first-round draft pick on a quarterback prospect that a lot of people are high on. That's always going to leave a bad feeling in your craw, you got to believe.
And by the way, just to be clear, they did not tell Aaron that they're trading up for Jordan Love or they're taking him. They also didn't tell the head coach.
Oh, wow.
Matt LaFleur didn't know either. Right? So this was just a front office. Brian Gutekunst and Mark Murphy and Russ Ball was up there. That's them. And, man, that
would show why they come up short.
That's a different deal.
That's
because that's one of those things. So I'm under the assumption, having worked for John Snyder and Scott McCloughan and those things, and having
it's all inclusive.
Yeah, it's all about take the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers had dipped a little bit, and you worried about the age. Is he going to be? Now
you made it very clear that he had dipped a little bit, Bucks.
He did. Okay. He had dipped prior to last year.
You made it very clear.
He had dipped prior to last year that you had to protect the franchise, so you get it. But in those instances, you talk about the respect factor. You are supposed to make that phone call, even if it's uncomfortable. Hey, man, just want to let you know we're bringing in a quarterback.
Exactly.
Blase. And go through it. Not doing that, and you saying not letting Matt LaFleur know?
That's called dysfunction.
That is a problem.
That's disconnected
that,
dysfunction.
Not only that, but then you don't call the guy for a while after the pick. And it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron's not the easiest guy in the world either now.
Yeah.
So let's go. Aaron's difficult too, right? And probably would make him great, but he's difficult. So, man, you know what kind of dude you're dealing with. Let's let him in on what's going on here, right? Hey, this is what we think we're going to do. And let everybody – look, when Ryan Pace went and got Mitch Trubisky a couple of years ago, he didn't tell John Fox. So what GM's supposed to do is you let your head coaches in and bring them in and make it all-inclusive, exactly what you're saying, Bucky.
Yeah.
All I know, if you're the Packers and you think you can win a Super Bowl, and Bucky, I know you say it's a little different, right? But if you think you can win a Super Bowl, and obviously they were right there last year, played a terrible game for the most part.
The last couple years.
Right. So if you think you win a Super Bowl, you can't even entertain trading him, can you? I mean, you're starting over if you trade. You have a roster to win right now.
They have to deal with this uncomfortable conversation.
That's your great equalizer.
Yeah, they have to. It's going to be really uncomfortable because the noise is going to tell them that they don't have leverage. But Gutekunst and Mark Murphy and all those guys, they're going to have to buckle up and they have to ride it out.
So is Love.
You can't let them out. And Love, they have to get in their mind. They have to be ready to open the season with Jordan Love as a starting quarterback.
And he's going to have to deal with all of the backlash of everything that's taking place with Aaron Rodgers right now, which is in a lot of ways, I mean, as a franchise quarterback, you got to be willing to come in and deal with all circumstances and be good in spite of. But let's be clear here. Second year, that's a very daunting task to have to come in under turbulence of one of the greatest players of all time wanting out the way that he did and you stepping in and knowing that you might have been the catalyst for this as well, even though
because the fans are going to treat him like that.
Your name is collateral damage, but, you're right. The fans are going to give him the blues.
The timing is fun, though, boy, right? On draft night coming out. So we got a lot to do.
Aaron knows what he's doing.
We'll talk. Trevor Lawrence, no one even seems to care. It's so odd.
It's one of the quietest number one draft picks, I think, maybe in the history of the draft.
Why?
I can't think. You know why? Because Trevor Lawrence has been the chosen one and has lived up to the billing from day one. I told the story earlier not too long ago. When Trevor Lawrence was born, they said, and with the first pick in the 2021 draft, you have been born Trevor Lawrence. So he's been bred and he's lived in this life for such a long time. I mean, I think he handles things like a third, fourth year vet, the way he talks about things, the way he kind of moves and maneuvers. I really like the young man. Really excited about him, Jay. I really feel like there's some tremendous upside, even though we've seen so much from him already.
I talked to Urban Meyer yesterday about him and just this, being his draft and how different. He said, normally, man, we just, put guys up on the list and, vertically and go, okay, we know these are guys we're going to go after in college to kind of go and recruit. He goes, now this is horizontal. He goes, man, it's just so different for me. But as far as Trevor Lawrence, what he loves, and I've heard a couple other guys say, is look, what he has. There's probably two sure things in this draft. And Trevor Lawrence is one, and then Kyle Pitts is the other. They're probably two sure things. Generational type guys of there's nothing you could say. I know you're going to say Micah Parsons.
I thought you were going to say Trevor Lawrence's hair. The two main things to bank on was Trevor Lawrence would go number one, and he's got great hair.
He does.
The last thing I can talk about is anybody's hair. But what they also loved about him is, man, there were two games, right? He lost the two games. But in those two games, he kept fighting and coming back. Some of these guys, you never really get to see him in adversity. So you did with him, and they loved how he was in those instances of adversity. But Trevor Lawrence, man, if there's two generational guys, that's one of them.
Yeah, it's funny, though, but I agree, LaVar. Last year with Burrow, we all knew from the beginning of last year he was going to be number one. He was kind of celebrated. This is just so quiet.
It's quiet.
There's a lot of storylines I'm fascinated to watch tonight, Bucky. Devonte Smith, where's he going to go?
He's small.
I don't know.
Is that going to play a part?
But he's amazing, right?
He is amazing, but it's funny because when the talk was after he won the Heisman Trophy, he's a top 10 pick, I was like, man,
he's too small.
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody that slim get picked in the top 10. And even though it wasn't an issue in college, man, 170 pounds is really light on the perimeter. And then in thinking about the dominant players.
165.
Yeah, the dominant players at that size, everyone touts Marvin Harrison, but then I'm like, okay, well, give me another one. And give me another one, because Marvin Harrison is
he
the
had
outlier.
Peyton Manning too.
Yeah, that's the
clear.
outlier. And with Devonte Smith, I don't know how fast he really is. He's a great route runner. He does a great job of making plays when it's schemed up for him. I don't know how much suddenness and explosiveness he has, and that's why you're hearing Jalen Waddle being touted over him at this point, because Jalen Waddle is explosive.
Well, and Chase also. So I don't know if Waddle's over him.
Yeah.
And, again, when you talk to teams, they got their boards kind of – I think Chase kind of is on –
Yes.
Is higher up on – if I had to say, and all the people I talk to, he's number one on more teams' boards than not. And then Devonte Smith is on the other ones, and Waddle is kind of lingering there also. Definitely you saw how tough he was, obviously, trying to come back from the ankle, and more complete because he can return also. But, again, I think, look, the three receivers we know, fantastic, right? Pitt's fantastic. We got the two quarterbacks we know they're going to go early on there. A couple offensive linemen. But this is the first draft I can ever remember. You don't have a three technique that's going to go top 3, top 8. You don't have a bona fide pass rusher that's going to go top 2, top 3. Sometimes there's a couple of them. We don't have that. I don't ever remember a draft like this.
I think it's unique. And I think that the quarterback talk intensified so much during the process of the workouts time, the interviews time, the coverage time. It turned into a quarterback days of our lives, so to speak, right? I mean, they dominated the headlines, and now what you're just saying, Jay, I'm looking at this now is okay, what is smoking mirrors? Because this is a draft of smoking mirrors, because there are some guys that I believe are really, really qualified that just aren't being spoken about. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic. I don't know if it's because of the new world that we live in at this point. But there are some really, really fine football players that just aren't being discussed very often.
I would agree.
I want to ask Bucky off of this, because you've done this for a living before. So if you don't have the previous year to go on, right? So let's say you see a guy at 240 pounds 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden he doesn't play last year, and now you see him, he's like 270. How do you judge that? How do you evaluate that?
It's hard because you have to use the tape from when he last played. So you would almost treat it like he was injured this final season. He didn't play 2020 because of an injury.
And is that a drawback? Is it a drawback?
It's not.
Because
You just
an
have
injury would be a drawback.
You just have to look at the tape from 2019, and now it becomes more of a projection than hey, I feel great about it. And then, the problem is it's clouded by the fact that you had the pro day workout, but you don't have private workouts. Right. You don't get a chance to really get your hands on them and see.
No combine.
And so it's scary. So, Jay, because you train a bunch of guys. So now what I'm doing is I'm calling you. Can you send me some video of your guy working out? Can you take him through some things so I can kind of get a feel for what he looks like? Can I get your facility to put on a little pro day or a combine doing some things that I want to see done so I can get it? Because outside of that, I don't know how you can really make those assessments.
And how much does that help? I mean, come on. We've watched guys now. It is commonplace to see a guy bomb a dime from 60 yards away. I mean, Cal Bowler was throwing dimes on his knees back in the day.
That's why you see so many guys that are busted up top, especially there.
And that's so now what you're saying, it definitely sets the stage for bust picks.
But that, you brought up something interesting. And by the way, just tuned in, Jaguars on the clock with the first pick. They've got 3 minutes to go.
I just texted Urban Meyer.
What are we waiting for?
I literally just texted Urban Meyer. I said, dude, make the pick. We got ADD.
It's not a surprise.
But I think it's his first draft, so they're like, hey, let me enjoy this.
You got to make sure. You just want to wait last minute.
Trevor's mom and dad are sitting there like, you guys are not starting off the relationship the right way. Trevor didn't make his lovely new bride wait. Why are you making your new bride and Trevor wait? Let's get it done. Let's walk down
in Jacksonville, we got the big party. Yeah. We got a big thing going on. It's a big deal down there. Yeah, it's a big thing going on at the stadium, so you want to make sure you do it.
And they've got 2 first-round picks.
How about it?
2 first-round.
Yes,
but
they do.
You brought up something interesting. Has there been a year like this where there's been so much disagreeing on the top quarterback prospects? Because I feel like you talk to one person, love Fields. Next person, don't love him. I maybe more than ever in that category.
It's really volatile because, it's not a level playing field when it comes to the evaluation. You have Trey Lance, who played one game. You have other guys who played a full complement of games, guys that played half a schedule. You now have the lack of what I call think tank, like group think, where because we all didn't get together at the combine. Because normally when we get together at the combine, we start talking, and then LaVar's opinion kind of bleeds into my opinion because we've had a couple and we're talking, and all of that stuff kind of becomes factual. Like, and so without all of those things, now everybody is operating in a silo, and you just don't know what you think. And there are a lot of people that are scared to death about what's going to happen.
Is that the pick?
Yeah.
Well,
it's not Byron Leftwich.
It's I'd be worried if the pick is Byron Leftwich. No, definitely not. Going through some of the Jags picks on television, Urban's first draft. So you talked to Urban. Was he excited? Was he nervous?
Yeah, he was. Yesterday he was exhausted.
It's new.
He was exhausted. Yeah, and I'm like, hey, I said, we having fun yet? And he goes, oh man, this is. Yeah, I knew it was hard. I knew it was a lot, but I didn't really fully know it. You know, when you look from the outside the way he is, and it's a completely different job. And not only that, that dude's never lost, right? So now all of a sudden he has a losing franchise. Like, man, you know, how's he going to deal with it? But he definitely has enjoyed the process. I just think yesterday, like most of them, when you talk to everybody I talk to, you know, usually yesterday, maybe some Tuesday, they're so exhausted because it's 363 or 364 days where they've worked beforehand. It's just like, okay, we could exhale and have a cocktail until they start picking their board apart again today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'll be that you said something, right? I mean, he's never lost before.
Right.
That first month's going to be challenged.
It certainly is.
A lot of internal pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of internal pressure. Having talked to a bunch of people that haven't done some stuff there, he's not only changing the team, but he's changing the entire operation in terms of the organization. They've never had this swagger that he has. And so it's all Urban Meyer down in Jacksonville.
But and you don't know. There's so many examples of guys who, you know, for every Jimmy Johnson, there's, I don't know, Chip Kelly, right? Every guy that's been great, college or pro, there's guys that it hasn't worked. So we will find out. Urban's got 2 picks in the first round. We know that.
There it is.
And Roger Goodell looks like he's about to say something. So guess what? The #1 overall pick is in. Let's hear it.
With the first pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson.
Now let the draft begin.
There you go. He waited a long time, but now we can all exhale. And look, he's obviously going to be a starter from day one. LaVar, you came in here with your own draft board. I love it. You got the big white sheets. So give me the details on what you think your #1's going to be here for Mr. Lawrence.
The deets. I like that Trevor Lawrence went #1. I think it's the right pick for a lot of different reasons. He's got great pedigree. He's shown that he has the ability to see the field. And you mentioned earlier he has the ability to compete in adverse situations. Trevor Lawrence has basically shown us that he has the bones and the skills to develop into what a franchise quarterback could be to change the fortunes of where the Jackson Jaguars are currently at. So I like the pick. Hate to sound like an expert speaking on it, but if I'm speaking based off of how I put it on my board,
you're supposed to be an expert.
Yeah. And you know what? Trevor Lawrence makes it easy to be an expert because this is a safe pick, but there will come a lot of pressure for Trevor Lawrence to perform at the level that people are going to expect. As a former #2 overall draft pick and highest rated player going into the 2000 draft, the one thing that I will say Trevor Lawrence will have to fight through and push through is that the minute details of scrutiny on every single thing that he does when you're not winning.
Well,
that's where it's going to be the key, and when you're not winning.
So here's the thing why I think he's fortunate to go to Jacksonville, right? When you haven't won like Jacksonville hasn't won, you're excited to have what they call a marquee player, like a star, because there hasn't been a star in Jacksonville, like legitimately, like throughout the franchise, like a marquee face of the franchise, face of the NFL type star. And he gets some of the pressure taken off of him because Urban commands so much attention in the room. And so it won't just be Trevor. It's Trevor and Urban. And so the two of them will shoulder those expectations and the brunt of the criticism and those things because Urban is having to deal with, can you make the jump from college to the pros? And so there are skeptics that wonder about that. So even though Trevor will get his fair share of criticism, Urban will take more of the the criticism before Trevor would really shoulder it.
All right, so no surprise, Trevor Lawrence goes 1 to the Jaguars. Listening to the NFL Draft on Fox Sports Radio. The Jets are on the clock with a second pick just under 5 minutes to go before their selection.
And they just made it.
It certainly looks like what we've known for a long time. But I think
we know they're going Zach Wilson, and that has not been a surprise. Now the draft begins after that pick.
Yeah, the number 3 pick is going to be very, very interesting, right?
Yeah.
But for Zach Wilson, for those who haven't seen, we've all seen the clips. You're talking about the pro days when he's throwing it across his body 60 yards down the field, but most of us haven't seen BYU play, right? So what is so special about this kid?
Look, man, he is the natural. I think that's the best way to describe him. When you watch him play, you close your eyes, and he plays the way a quarterback is supposed to play. It's very easy and free-flowing, big-time arm talent. You see him play in the pocket, on script, off script. He makes these fantastic, magical throws down the field. And so when people make the comparison to Aaron Rodgers, everyone kind of – it's a lot for them. But the way that he plays, his playing style is reminiscent of Aaron Rodgers in terms of Aaron Rodgers in his prime, like just kind of operating like a magician. He has that. The one thing about Wilson that people will talk about, the level of competition, because it was such a major jump from his sophomore year to his junior year. When you talk to the coaches will tell you he went through a bunch of different injuries.
There you go.
In 2019.
I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer.
Shoulders, those things.
Fingers.
And he had to work through it.
Throwing shoulder.
And then this year he was healthy and he was able to play. But people may not notice he was in a quarterback competition to be the starter at the beginning of the season, and now he's the number 2 overall pick. Potentially,
that's becoming more
different. Yeah,
it's
like the Joe Burrow situation.
Look, he went and he had 11 touchdowns and 9 picks the previous year.
Yeah,
and then was it 33-3?
Yes,
right, 33 touchdowns and 3 picks after that. But also like same with Joe, like he started to elevate. And look, I've heard. I hate when we do this because we are comparing him like Hall of Famers. And I know he's tied with Steve Young, and they've talked about that kind of athleticism. But early, he started rising up. We all knew that, okay, we already knew who was going to be number 1. Then who's going to be number 2? And we heard all the other quarterbacks there. He rose up to number 2, man, back in February. Like this was not something that just happened this month or last month. He started, even more before his pro day, he started elevating to that second pick of the draft. And there were people who were calling the Jets to try to trade up with them in case the Jets weren't so sold on him yet, to try to get that second pick of the draft for this kid. That was the target. So there's always been a clear-cut 1 and 2 in this league.
Now will he handle New York?
All I'll say is this, because let me be the Debbie Downer. I heard natural. I heard this. I heard he's done that. And
he
comparing to Hall of Famers and this, that, and the other. That's great. There have been a lot of naturals that have come into the league and have unnaturally left the league. And to me, when I look at Zach Wilson, I'm a skeptic. I am a skeptic of Zach Wilson. I'm not a believer of him going number 2 in the draft. That's just my take on it. You may ask why. First thing, well, I don't think I'm a hater. I just think that I try to break things down the way that I see it and the way I feel about it. For one, I understand that we're in a different age period of the league where you can be a smaller guy and be the guy. But, the first guy that we took is super, super tall. So, I mean, this guy isn't very big and has had injuries. I mean, let's take a break. But I do have criticisms that are warranted for a number 2 overall draft.
And before we do break, again, the draft starts here right after the Jets, the 49ers. And I think their pick is going to throw a lot of mock drafts kind of up in the air and upside down.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up now.
Geez.
I thought all the number 2 overall stayed together. What just happened there, man? Unbelievable. Well,
yeah, I guess I have grounds to say something then.
You do. Listen, we're going to listen to LaVar. I know that right now. Roger Goodell is meandering up to the stage, so that means the New York Jets are about to make their pick. I don't think this is going to be a surprise, as Jay said. I think really the next pick. Now, after this, who do the Niners take? And that sets in motion really.
I do have Zach Wilson on my number 2 pick, by the way.
I mean, congrats. So does everybody in America.
But I've only gone with the peer pressure of it. I've not gone with it based off of me thinking he should be, just so we're clear.
We just found that out. What the bottom line is, I think the Jets are going to do what the Jets are going to do.
And they've done it.
There you go.
And
the pick is in. Let's get it.
Zach.
With the second pick, the New York Jets select Zach Wilson, quarterback.
All right, there you go.
BYU.
All right, so, guys, Draft Night Live, Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite. You're still running your business on QuickBooks? More like quicksand. The bigger your company grows, the faster you sync with outdated software. Right now, NetSuite offering a one-of-a-kind financing program. Special financing at netsuite.com/draft. netsuite.com/draft.
They're going to have to offer that to Zach Wilson.
They might after what you just said.
There's quicksand in New York.
Listen, LaVar, as Jay said, the draft now really begins. The Niners are on the clock,
Yeah.
baby.
Don't believe all those other mocks for them.
Draft Night Live, Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite. Right now, NetSuite offering one-of-a-kind financing program for your business at netsuite.com/draft. That's netsuite.com/draft. Number 3 pick, 49ers, is in Glaze.
I'm already disagreeing.
Everybody has had Mack Jones, and all along, it's not been Mack Jones. Trey Lance has been the guy, the reason why they trade up. Now, they did like both those guys when they moved up. Like, all right, we got 3 guys that we like, but we really like one. And on Friday, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan went home. They said, man, we know the guy we want. Let's sleep on it, make sure. Came back Monday. They said, absolutely, this is the guy we love. But they love this guy. And you don't just trade up for a guy like Mack Jones, right? Because they got Jimmy G on their roster. So, yeah, I believe Trey Trey Lance the guy they end up going. I know, Bucky, you had it the other day. I'm like, oh, look at that. All right, Bucky has it here. And that's who they've zeroed on. Let's see if that's what they make the pick.
Yeah, Bucky threw that out there.
Let's see if they make that pick.
49ers, Roger Goodell about to announce it, and the pick is in for San Francisco. Let's hear it.
With the 3rd pick, the San Francisco 49ers select Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State.
Well, you don't trade up to trade all that capital to trade up to take safe, right? You trade a guy who you think could be a star, and tell me why he fits in Kyle Shanahan's offense, Bucky, because we're all saying, well, Mack Jones, he's accurate, and he obviously was. He completed 77% of his passes. But what about Lance?
The thing about Trey Lance, it gives Kyle Shanahan the opportunity to really blend both worlds. He can do all the stuff that he's always done with Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, but he can bring back some of that old RG3 stuff. Because you're talking about a guy who is a talented runner, ran for over 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards at North Dakota State. He can throw it. He can do all the bootleg stuff. And what people underestimate, the amount of responsibility that he had at the line of scrimmage running that offense at North Dakota State, very multiple, going from pro style to collegiate RPOs and power run game. This is the guy that no one wanted to see in San Francisco because with all the weapons that they have on the outside, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, with that running game and a quarterback that now can run, it is a problem.
But let me tell you, the Niners, they snowed everybody in the league because everybody thought it was Mack Jones, and they thought, Trey Lance was going to come down. Some teams were looking at quarterback, okay, maybe we can sneak this guy in, or somebody's going to want to trade up for him. The way this draft drops now, like, people aren't going to trade up for Mack Jones.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if anybody's going to trade up. I mean, Fields possibly, but it kind of changes things up there. And then I think even like the next pick with the Falcons, I think people thought they were going to go quarterback. I don't see that happening either. I see them going Pitts from Florida. I don't see them taking a quarterback. Yeah. So I think some of these quarterbacks that we originally all thought that, man, there could be 5 quarterbacks that go in the top 7 picks. I don't see that happening. Not only did I not see that happen, I see a couple of them possibly dropping down further than we expected.
Well, there you go, the Niners. So that's the first real outlier of the draft. I know, Bucky, you had it. Jay, you were all over it. Trey Lance to the 49ers. And now potentially Kyle Pitts to the Falcons. Here's my question, right? So you're thinking Ridley and Pitts and Julio Jones, but now Julio Jones on the trading block.
I don't think you could get a trade for Julio Jones to be able to trade that
Too
contract.
Much.
I know Baltimore called the other day. They're the ones that kind of started it off, but
not realistic.
Man, it's an awful lot. Yeah, that's a big contract to trade for, so I don't see it happening. So, yeah, a guy, man, like Arthur Smith, if, in fact, they do take Pitts, who, man, when I talk to people about Pitts, they say, well, he's not a receiver, but if he was, he'd be probably the first receiver in this draft. He's not really a tight end because we haven't seen anything like this. He's just a weapon. He's different. He's like Calvin Johnson at tight end. He's different, but, the point is, man, everybody thought, too, like even just before this, I was outside talking to a GM who was still convinced that Atlanta was going quarterback. I'm like, no, I don't see that happening, man. And he's like, no, yeah, the GM and the head coach are fighting about it. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not fighting about it. There's just so much that comes out before the draft, and you got to figure out what's true and what's not true.
It's so funny when you talk about the Kyle Pitts thing. Tim Brewster is the tight end coach there. He's a guy that I know since I was in college. He coached me at Carolina. He talked about coaching Antonio Gates when he was with the Chargers, and then coaching this guy for 1 year at Florida. He said, Buck, the only thing that we had to change when we got there was he needed to develop the dog mentality, that I'm going to dominate down in, down out. He said you saw the light come on this year because he's really embraced that part. And he said he's a very special athlete who is really an NBA power forward in size with wide receiver-like skills. If you put him in Atlanta with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Kevin Ridley, I would suggest they get a running back. Mm-hmm. Now you have an offense that can get you to the point where you can win 7 or 8 games just on that side of the ball with Arthur Smith calling the plays. I think that is the move for the Falcons, even though some would suggest get a quarterback now because you're in the top 5.
Would you go quarterback here, or are you good with Matt Ryan?
No, I'm going. I have Kyle Pitts as the pick for the Falcons. I think that that's an amazing pick for them. I think that Ryan still has some good years left in him, and even if it falls off the cliff this season, you have brought in a player that you can, well, plug and play with a new quarterback and have, like we mentioned, the other guys on that staff, that receiving staff. But Kyle Pitts is a game changer. I think that he should be the guy that goes next. Yep. But then again, I think that there should have been different guys that went before now. So I'm just watching. I'm interested.
Right now, with Lance going to the 49ers, Glaze, the Mack Jones, Justin Fields, where are they going to go is fascinating to see how it unfolds.
I think Mack Jones more than that because, look, again, Bucky was the only mock draft I saw that had Trey Lance at number 3. Everybody else had Mack Jones, including now, and Bucky can tell you this, teams do this. Teams do mock drafts, and they have several people in their building that do mock drafts. So they do it, they put it up on their own board, and that's why they'll call people like us to try and figure out so they can help with their own mock draft. But, man, I don't remember, and even when I was trying to argue with people about, hey, make sure you just, keep your eyes open in case, just people, they believed every mock draft out there. Yeah. Even teams in the league believed every mock draft out there. And look, I talked to John Lynch a lot this week about it. And he's like, man, I can't believe usually things like this come out. And it just happened. It just hasn't happened. It just hasn't come out. And it was a really well-kept secret. And we were all shocked that, I think he was shocked. I think Kyle Shanahan was shocked. I was shocked that it doesn't really getting out. And, things like that usually kind of leak out a lot more.
Can I offer this?
Please.
I have Mack Jones in my mock draft going 15th to the Patriots.
Yep.
And I feel as though, and I had Justin Fields, for the record, going to the San Francisco 49ers. I made my comparisons off of the RG3 years in Washington and said to myself, you get Kirk Cousins and RG3 in one player with a Justin Fields. Now, they didn't do that, but now it makes me wonder, am I looking at Mack Jones or Justin Fields going to that Patriots team? Is this a flip-flop? What is Chicago going to do? Because I had Trey Lance going to the Bears at 20, and I know that that's a long ways from where he just got picked, but I felt as though that was the responsible ordering of the players that and what I scouted and what I saw from them.
So here's the thing that I wonder, and it's a relationship business.
Pick is in.
Cam Newton used to coach Justin Fields on the 7-on-7
Yes,
team.
he did.
And so just depending on how Bill Belichick feels about Cam as a leader and whatever, I do wonder if you bring both of those guys in the same quarterback room and think about resetting that quarterback in the way they do their offense like that.
That would make a lot of sense. Well, the Atlanta Falcons pick is in. Roger Goodell heading over to the podium right now, and let's hear it.
With the 4th pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Kyle Pitts, tight end, Florida.
There you go. You guys were all over Kyle Pitts. Boy, what weapons they have now for Arthur Smith to wonder with that playbook, right? How are you going to cover them? And they need some help offensive line, and they do need a running back. The Todd Gurley experiment did not work, but boy, oh boy.
It's Plexico Burress. Have you guys ever watched film on Plexico Burress? I said he's Plexico Burress, but runs a little bit more bow-legged than Plex. But he looks just like Plexico. It is amazing how smooth his catch radius, his sense of relaxation, getting in and out of his breaks. Plex said something that I thought was really interesting. You can neutralize speed. but you can't neutralize size. And this Kyle Pitts, he's something different, and I'm interested to see what he brings to the league. I like this pick for Atlanta.
See, the reason why I like this pick is because he doesn't have the pressure. We've celebrated him, talked about him being the draft's unicorn. Well, now in Atlanta, he doesn't have to be that guy because Julio Jones still commands all the attention. Calvin Ridley is a dog on the other side. He actually gets a chance to really work against linebackers and overmatched safeties in the middle of the field. This is the perfect spot for him. And you talk about someone's game who will come back. Matt Ryan will come back to being a high-end quarterback because he now has the weapons around.
I think he's going to like it.
And they can, by the way, they don't have to get their quarterback of the future in the first round.
No.
Right? There's good quarterbacks here in second, third rounds here. So especially the way Arthur Smith deals with them, right? You look at the quarterbacks that go in the first round. Man, there's been we've had 2 full drafts where every one of them were bust in the first round. So
you're not wrong. By the way, so here's what we know: the Bengals are going to be on the clock. They don't need a quarterback. Okay, that's one thing we know. Their quarterback though got hurt behind a really bad offensive line.
Go big.
So do they go the obvious, or do they still want some more playmakers with his old buddy from LSU?
Yeah, they were when I talked to them this week, they were looking at Sewell. They were looking at Chase. They were looking at the other receiver also, Devonta Smith and Waddle. So they were kind of going back and forth. But I think they were really, kind of come down to it. Well, I think it was both, and also don't forget, Chase was played wide receiver over there with Burrow. Sewell obviously kind of give them certainly, a good blocker. But I think they look at Chase like he's more like in immediate impact, instant ready right now. And this is just when I talked to him the other day. I think they end up going receiver over offensive line. Everybody thinks they go O-line, but I think they look at a guy like Chase, and look, they have Joe Burrow who already knows what he's like. So they have more of an inside source there. So I think, and again, I talked to him yesterday and this morning, they were going back and forth between those two guys. I think they end up going the wide receiver from LSU.
Do you know what he's like? Do you know what he's like as a pro receiver? We know what Joe Burrow is like as a pro quarterback now, but do we know what he's like as a pro receiver?
No, but you don't know with any of these guys. But at least Joe has more of an ink. He knows Chase a lot more than he knows Penny Sewell.
See, the thing about Penny Sewell is he has anchor material. He's anchor material lineman. So when you bring in that type of that guy, you're now building. It's like a sheriff going to the Washington football team. You're bringing a guy that has that.
Bucky, who's
those
more
intangibles.
Who's more ready right now, Sewell or Chase?
I would go with the big. I would go with Penny Sewell because in my mind, I think, look, I like Chase and all those other receivers, but we've seen these second-round guys come out the crib, DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin. And so I would be more apt to get the offensive tackle to make sure that Joe Burrow doesn't get hit again.
But I give Burrow the guy that he's more comfortable with, that he knows already, right? Especially because, look, he's coming off that ACL. So it's not like, man, you can go out there and do all the stuff you normally would.
And I would think that's even more reason to get the lineman, though, right?
There you go.
I think it's more to get somebody that you're comfortable with.
Because he blew out. But
you're comfortable with.
They have good receivers. I mean, they have a couple good weapons.
To Jay's point, here's what I would say. Joe Burrow is at his best when you empty it out and you let him play basketball. He was a point guard in high school. He likes to open it up to see the floor. So now you get him 3. Now you get him 3 wide receivers, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase. You spread it out and you just say, hey, you just find the open man and get it out, because that's what he was best at LSU.
There have been a few really, 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 really
take up the whole show with this?
Yes, some really good linemen to win that Outland Trophy. Yeah. And this is a first of his kind to get that award. And when I talk about what Sewell brings to the table, he's a pretty impressive offensive
Well, we're going to find out, because the Bengals are on the clock. It is draft night right here on
Fox
Sports Radio.
Really,
back after this. Are back, and during the break, we had the 5th overall pick by the Bengals. Let's hear it.
With the 5th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU.
Guys nailed it. They get the weapons for Joe Burrow, play the point guard, like you said, Bucky up there. And so now it is the Miami Dolphins. Talk about weapons. Tua, it's all his show now. No more Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Look, and we just talked about Joe Burrow knowing Jamar Chase. You also have to look at it and go, all right, Tua. he has two wide receivers that he knows really well. And obviously the Heisman Trophy winner Smith, and then Waddle also. They also have Penny Sewell. You like that? I know, LaVar, you like Micah, but I think the end, they end up going wide receiver. And I think they end up going one of the receivers that Tua is comfortable with. And, Bucky, which one would you go with? Would you go with Devonta? Would you go with Waddle? You know, he's more of a two-threat player than Devonta Smith is because of return ability. Which one would you go with?
So Waddle is the explosive guy. So I want the explosive guy, the catch and run specialist. Smith is more of the route runner. But, man, when you think about the way Miami wants to play, you got Devontae Parker on the outside. You have Gesicki on the inside. You just bring in Will Fuller to stretch the field. Man, they just need a catch and run specialist, a playmaker. Jalen Waddle makes so much sense right there.
Yeah, that's – Waddle's the guy that this week started kind of really moving up their draft board, and everybody thought it was going to be Devonta Smith, and it was like, no, somebody in there kept telling me, don't be surprised if it's the other one. I'm like, other one? You mean the tackle? No, the other one. And they meant
the other one.
Yep.
I like it. I like the pick. He's explosive. We didn't get to see him a lot because of that injury that he sustained this year. But
we saw him try to fight back from it, which I loved.
He tried to fight back. I hope he didn't do any real damage to himself. But I do like Waddle's big playability. And, I mean, listen, if you're going to give Tua a real opportunity to be the quarterback of the future of this team, you got to give him enough weapons to go out and do it.
And by the way, if they end up going this pick, which, again, I believe they end up going Waddle, Detroit will then be on the clock. And I know right before the draft, teams were talking to Detroit, including Carolina, including Washington, about moving up to their pick to try to get that pick and see if Detroit's going to move back. I don't know if they are going to move back or not because I think they're looking at two. Like if they end up going here, and then they got Penny Sewell sitting there, they got Devonta Smith sitting there. But I do know that there has been some activity with teams trying to move up with Detroit. Even Sean Payton tried to get all the way up there with the Detroit Lions at number 7.
At you guys. There are more wide receivers that can have an impact in this draft than there are, in my assumption, playmaking linebackers.
But there's 3 receivers up top, and then it drops. So that's the difference.
Yes.
Where
how many linebackers are there?
They're all kind of bunched together, right? All the linebackers.
You think they're bunched together?
Second, third round, and the first.
Because there's some people that believe Jamin Davis from Kentucky can be
better.
Yeah, some people love him. Yeah,
some of these people shouldn't get paid to do the jobs that they're doing. Then I'm so confused. I'm just telling you,
there's a lot of love, and then Zaven Collins. And
what pick was Ray Lewis when he came out? Do we recall that?
He was in
Somebody
the 20s.
Look it up.
He was in the 20s.
I mean, people make mistakes. I get it.
26.
Holy smokes! I almost used profanity on
nice
live
catch.
radio.
Really nice catch.
Glad you caught that.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins pick is in. Waiting on that for a moment.
I hope you guys know I'm joking.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. The question is someone going to move up here? You talk Carolina, Denver, Chicago,
Saints.
New England.
Saints. Well, Chicago's not but Saints are trying to move all the way up there also. It's probably too far.
Chicago's got Andy Dalton at quarterback.
Yeah, but they're not going to move up with the Lions.
No, I'm not saying right here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying right here, right now, but up a little further. I mean, a lot of teams still need a quarterback now.
You feel good about Waddle, huh?
I feel real good about Waddle, yeah.
Well, Roger Goodell is going to come up and announce it and glaze the scoopage, feel like another weapon for Tua. Dolphins, are they going to do it? The pick is in. Let's hear it.
I would never want to play him in Jeopardy.
With the 6th pick, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama.
That's why you get the big bucks, Jay.
Guys, what are the lottery numbers tonight? Can you put those out as well?
Can you say what is before you put your pick out there, please? What is Jalen Waddle?
And then Aaron would have to play for the Packers if I took that job.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, there you go.
Yep.
So Waddle to the Dolphins. So the Bengals and Dolphins both go and get just weapons for their young quarterbacks. That's the bottom line in this passing league that we're in right now. So what are the Lions? I mean, when you look at Detroit, they also need a wide receiver. They need a lot of defense.
They need a lineman. They got Penny Sewell sitting right there, which, man, I think if they thought he'd really be sitting right there, they'd be jumping for joy. But there's a couple guys that they were pumped. They love Slater also, right? And a lot of times you start doing draft work on guys, unlike almost other guys, because you don't think that certain guys will be there in the first place, right? You didn't think Penny Sewell would be available at number 7. So you really start doing your homework on some of those other guys as well. So it, I think in the end though, just when I was talking to, I talked to the Lions right before we went on, And they were asking me, do you think Sewell could drop? There's any way? I said, it could happen, man. Absolutely. I said, oh, my God, if that happened. And I know people, again, people are talking about a trade. But I knew going in, if somehow Sewell dropped to them, they would be, like I said, they'd be throwing a party. And I think, without a doubt, they end up going that pick.
Wow. I buy it. I had Chase going to the Lions. I felt like they had a big need at receiver. That would be where he went. I thought Sewell would be in Cincinnati.
Okay, so let's go back and think about Dan Campbell and the presser and who he's hired in terms of their coaching staff and what they want to do. They've talked about being tough. They've talked about being physical. They've talked about playing old school football. Well, the way that you play old school football is you got to run the football and you got to run it at them. Anthony Lynn wants to bring his version of the Shanahan offense. You now get that big, mobile offensive tackle in Penei Sewell. You have a running back in DeAndre Swift who can make things happen. And with Jared Goff, I know everyone kind of poo-poos him and talks about him. The one thing that we know he can do is he can run that stretch boot system and do that. They can be competitive in that vein.
And again, I told you that, Carolina was trying to move up, and a couple teams trying to move up. Carolina also now trying to possibly entertain offers to move back down as well. And this is, again, where things get interesting. If they take Sewell, right? We haven't had a defensive player taken yet. Nope. I knew going in this draft, Carolina loved the two corners, right? I thought at first it was Surtain, then it all of a sudden became Horn, and then they were also looking at Justin Fields. Could you have a quarterback here? I don't think so. I think this is the time we start to have a couple of those defensive guys come off. I know you're looking for Micah Parsons, but man,
selfishly.
So I think Carolina. I know. I'm getting text from the room. If they stay, that means obviously they're talking to teams about possibly moving back there. If they stay, I think they go corner in there and end up being the first defensive player taken this draft. But again, back to that Lions pick. Hey, you've seen Sewell, LaVar. Is he the type of guy that could shut you down?
Absolutely.
At the end of my career,
right, Bucky?
Yeah,
with one hand.
He snuffed LaVar out. Completely snuffed him out.
He wouldn't even watch film of LaVar.
At the end of my career? At what point are we talking?
I think he meant today, like right now.
Today? Yes. He can shut me down today for certain.
Oh, man.
Yes, and I'll leave that there.
Is he the definitive over Slater? A lot of people like Slater, too.
In my mind, yes.
Okay.
When I look at Sewell, he's 20 years old. You look at the movement skills, the way that he climbs, you're not supposed to be 330 pounds that can move like that on the edge. He can play in a zone scheme, a gap scheme. He's scheme-friendly. Rashawn Slater is a really good player, a technician. But this dude moves the furniture.
Hold on now. What about Durasol?
No,
you got to throw him.
List with those
no, he's not. He's not. I don't think he's in the same.
And not only that, the USC guard.
I like the USC.
Also.
I like Elijah. I like Elijah.
Absolutely.
I won't downplay Durasol like that. I mean, he was dominant at Virginia Tech. Y'all don't feel good about that?
I feel like he's a nightclub house. He throws guys out the club, but these other guys are different.
I love that, dude.
They road grade him out the club.
Nightclub guy.
He throws them out. Right. He throws them out.
Hey, again, let's just go back to Carolina. If Carolina stays in this pick, which again they're trying to possibly move it right now, but if they do, and we're talking corner, okay, I look if you have if you do more of a zone team, then you're obviously going Surtain.
Yeah.
You got more man, then you're going to go Horn. But so I do think that J.C. Horn ends up becoming the first defensive player in this draft, and a couple picks here. I think he's the first guy, but it just goes to show you how much this thing changes in the last 5 days going up to the draft. Because, man, going into this draft, it was Patrick Surtain. He was certain. He was sure on every team, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, teams start almost looking at him like, man, he's too perfect. Too perfect means that he doesn't have more of a ceiling to go. I'm like, what are you talking about? You guys have had 52 weeks to do this. And now all of a sudden, right? Now all of a sudden, they're overthinking. And I'm saying, I think J.C. Horn's going to be phenomenal. He competes. He's like Michael Thomas, but as a cornerback. I love him. But, man, it's just amazing how much these guys kind of it's this paralysis by overanalysis. So I do think Penei Sewell goes to Detroit. I do think Horn ends up going to Carolina as the first defensive player in the draft. Nobody saw that coming a day ago, 2 days ago, 4 days ago, 8 days ago, if in fact they keep the pick and that's the way they go.
6 picks in, no offensive linemen, no defensive players. It's different. It's a different year now.
It's different. Look, man, LaVar can attest to it. Yeah. 7-on-7 has impacted
changed everything.
The NFL game. These kids at quarterback and at wide receiver get more reps than they ever have. And so they're the most ready to come and play because They catch a ton of balls. They're working with these private trainers, and they're ready. And so I think the draft is reflective of the 7-on-7 culture that we've seen.
Well, I got to go back to a guy like Micah Parsons in this conversation, because in that 7-on-7 culture, you got to have speed. 4.69, 4.39.
You're right. The pick is in. Roger Goodell is set to announce it. Let's hear it.
Penny.
With the 7th pick, the Detroit Lions select Penei Sewell, offensive lineman, Oregon.
There you go.
They crump.
Brothers in Norma Tech.
They are feeling good, the Lions, as Sewell drops into their lap, and boy, that is a good pick for them. Yeah. And now here is Carolina with the all-interesting pick. There are so many options for them. Jay, you talked about teams trying to trade up. Bucky, if this is you making this pick, where do you go?
If you're talking about the Carolina Panthers, like here's the thing.
If they stay.
So if you're playing man-to-man, it really comes down to going to the ice cream shop and what kind of flavor do you want. J.C. Horn is a man-to-man corner. The best thing that he does, he is competitive, he's feisty. He wants to go nose-to-nose and completely take out a guy. If you want the scheme-friendly, very diverse, technically sound guy, then Patrick Surtain II is your guy. I think both of these guys carry the same grade. It really comes down to how do you want to play on the perimeter, and do you need what I call a thermostat leader in the room? J.C. Horn's temperament changes the way your defense plays, because he's going to bark and be boisterous and whatever. And if you need that, he can add a different dimension to your lineup.
I like the DNA of Patrick Surtain II. Obviously, I came out in the same era as his dad. I know we've seen guys. We saw what's my buddy's name that gave the deuces to the cheetah, and his dad was a great player at Ohio State and played for the Minnesota Vikings. I like when guys have legacy plays, and Patrick Surtain is a legacy guy. I like him over your other guy.
But that's legacy too, though.
J.C.
Horn is legacy too.
Yeah. But that's
the
the other side of the ball. That's the other
booming.
side. It's the other side of the ball.
By the way, also again, so the Lions got who they were really hoping for, Penei Sewell. And Carolina, like I said, with possibly J.C. Horn. And when I was talking to people this week about them going defensive player, everybody's like, "Oh, no way, man! They used all their picks last year on a defensive player." Matt Rule's going to do what he wants to do.
True. So
Sam Darnold's going to be the guy. That's the bottom line.
Go get Slater.
Sam Darnold's going to be the guy,
at least for this year,
unless they trade out. They got a minute and 50 seconds to trade out. If not, then I see them going that J.C.
Take Slater. Take Slater. Get the lineman.
Well, they could use that too.
They could use it. Get the lineman. Build that line of scrimmage. Build your offense up. Matt Rule is really, really adept at being able to call defenses and structure a defense. Get a lineman. Build your offense up. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, look, and Joe Brady. Fascinated to see what he does with Sam Darnold now, right? And if you could build up that line, give him a little time, which is one thing he never had in New York. I mean, absolutely never had it. So do we even know what Sam Darnold is really capable of? Have we seen even a bit of it?
We don't. And we will give him the benefit of the doubt, because you have to throw away those 3 years in New York. We've seen some flashes. He has to work on his game, but this will be the best supporting cast that he's had. The playmakers on the outside, Anderson and Moore, C-Mac in the backfield.
If he can stay healthy.
They need to upgrade the offensive line at some point.
Yes, they do.
But he
Why
will
not
have
now?
that.
Is Slater the guy for this? I mean, does that make sense?
I mean, it does make sense on paper. It makes sense if you're going to build that up. If you're going to say, hey, we're going to go all in on Sam Darnold for the next 2 years, you're going to get the offensive lineman. That certainly can do it.
I've been off since Kyle Pitts, so I'm hoping I could get back on track with my mock draft here. I got Slater going.
You still on that?
Yeah, I told you I'm going to live and die by it.
You have.
No matter how bad I sound or how bad I look, out there hating on me, I could care less. I put in the work and the time, and I said, if these are the picks that I'm making for this team, this is who I'm going with. I have Rashawn Slater at this pick. Right
then
here.
let it happen.
So again, this week I was told straight out by people sourcing the Panthers, we got Horn, Surtain, and then we're actually looking at Justin Fields also. And they're kind of going back and forth, but I'm like, man, in the end, like because of our system, we think J.C. Horn would probably be better. And then when I was talking to them right before this draft, they're like, I think we're going J.C. Horn, but we may be looking to move up, maybe looking to get out. They were afraid, I think, somebody was going to jump them for one of these DBs. J.C. Horn will end up being the first defensive player of this draft.
Wow. Well, you haven't been wrong yet, so I'm not going to buck against you.
No.
But I'm staying with my mock draft, Rashawn Slater, offensive lineman.
You got to stay true to it, LaVar. You know what I mean?
It takes a brave man to do it.
Listen, if you just turned us on, welcome. NFL Draft here on Fox Sports Radio. Not a shock here. Trevor Lawrence goes number 1 overall to the Jags. Zach Wilson to the Jets. Trey Lance to the 49ers. Then it was Kyle Pitts to the Falcons, Jamar Chase to the Bengals, Jalen Wadden to the Dolphins, Penei Sewell, the big offensive tackle to the Lions, and now we're waiting on the Carolina Panthers. Their pick is in, just waiting for Roger Goodell to make it official.
And by the way, once they go in and put that pick in, then you have Denver on the clock. And Denver's one of the teams that, they're trying to see if there's truth to Aaron Rodgers. Can we possibly do this? Can we trade for Aaron Rodgers? This, in my opinion, is the most pivotal spot in the whole first round.
Exciting.
Because I know, just in case. Now, I don't think Green Bay is going to do it. I think it would take a lot of up for Green Bay to actually do that, and especially in such a short period over here. But this, for me, there is a lot more drama going into this pick than people could possibly think, just because Denver's a place that I think Aaron liked to go to Denver. I know Darren, even though Denver got Teddy Bridgewater, it's Aaron Rodgers. They'll try and swing away with him. So I think a lot will be told about the Aaron Rodgers situation, if they could pull a trade off right here or not.
Intestinal fortitude is what you were looking for there, Jay Glaze. Intestinal fortitude.
So you're telling me that John Elway's like in North Cal right now? Is that where he is? Aaron, come on down to Denver. Boy, that would be fascinating.
I knew exactly what you were speaking of.
You know where I'm going.
Jay.
Yes.
Exactly right. So the Panthers are about to make their selection. Roger Goodell is making his way to the podium for the 8th overall pick, Carolina. And we'll see what we have here for the Panthers. What are they going to do under Matt Rule? Pick is in.
J.C. Horn.
And let's get it.
With the 8th pick, the Carolina Panthers select J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina.
And so Horn is the first quarterback off the board here, and he goes to the Carolina Panthers. Of course, his father, Joe, proud. There you go. They celebrate, and so do the Panthers here tonight. Draft Night Live on Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite. You're still running your business on QuickBooks? Well, more like quicksand. Bigger your company grows, the faster you sync with outdated software. Right now, NetSuite offering a one-of-a-kind financing program. That's special financing at netsuite.com/draft. netsuite.com/draft. So, the Denver Broncos will be on the clock next. Can they draft Aaron Rodgers? No, but can they trade for him? Oh, yes, they can. A lot of drama on the line right now. We've got more to do. Draft night /draft. We are up to number 9, the Denver Broncos, and the pick is in. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but maybe they trade for him, Glaze. Who knows?
Well, I would think this would be part of that package if they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You would think that's part of it, and, it's this was, again, I think a much more pivotal pick than anybody realized, because it was like, hey, this is a place that Aaron had a lot of interest in. I know, of course, they looked. George Payton, new, general manager over there. He, of course, was going to talk to them also. Just like, how do you not? You've got to talk to them, right? So it was real interesting how this would, how this one was going to go down. I think in the end,
Slater,
they end up going. No, I think they go defense also.
You think so?
Yeah, I think they go because they got a defensive coach. So
yeah.
I think the next corner goes off the board here to them or Dallas. I think them, and then maybe your guy Micah Parsons or vice versa. I think it's Parsons or Chan here and there. There you go.
Yep, the pick is in. Let's go to it.
With the 9th pick, the Denver Broncos select Patrick Surtain II, cornerback, Alabama.
Very sure pick, right? Very, like this guy, man, coming out, you just knew this guy's a stud. It's like he was bred to play football.
Well, that has to throw at least some sort of a monkey wrench in the Cowboys, does it not?
Yes.
It absolutely does.
Because now they're both gone.
But now, what I would contend, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you build strength on strength.
You
focus on offense. You get an offensive lineman.
Oh, wow.
I would, but
I think you still got to go
so
defense,
here's
right?
the thing. They were – and let's look. We got to break down Patrick, obviously, with Denver.
Yeah.
But Dallas, man, they love those two corners. They were really hoping, and they're like, man, if not, then – we're going to try and trade back. If not, they're going to look at your guy, Micah Parsons.
Ooh.
They need a linebacker.
Yes.
Bad.
Well, here's what I would say. In watching the Cowboys closely, they have to find a way to replace Jalen Smith in nickel situations.
They do.
They need more speed and athleticism on the second level. Now,
They
I can
need
point
better
out.
tackling,
I can
too.
point out.
They wanted
Smith.
a corner so bad, so I can
Yes.
see them now.
They
I
do
know
need a
they're now
corner.
going
I
to
know
take
they
calls.
wanted a corner.
They're just so
Yeah.
bad. I know
Yeah.
Dallas taking calls now to see if they could drop back down. They have their heart set on one of these cornerbacks.
What about Caleb Farley?
No.
Nah, bad.
No,
No,
not
medicals,
spot.
medicals.
Sertan
I
was
think
the guy
Micah
for
Parsons
Dan
would be-
Quinn, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, the
He was
cover
the
three
guy
guy.
for all that.
He
I
was,
mean, he was the guy for all that.
he was the
fit.
perfect fit because he's safe and reliable. You know exactly what you're getting down in, down out. You pair him with his old teammate, Trevon Diggs. Solid overall player.
Let me ask you a question, though. The Cowboys, you think back to a couple years ago when they really had it going, their offensive line. Their O-line is not what it was, right? Frederick has retired.
Right.
They've lost pieces. They're not as strong. Slater's still on the board. Is that an option there? LaVar, you like something like that? I know they're going to try and look down. Probably not the way they're going to go.
For what team?
They're Dallas.
For Dallas.
It's still, now with the corners off.
They need so much help. They had they gave up more points than anybody in the history of the league at one point last year on defense. They need some help on defense. They need some speed on defense. Yes, they have their hearts set. And I'm sorry to jump in on you on Slater again, LaVar, but
he's trying.
It's all right.
They had their
Slater,
hearts
I'm
set.
really
on
not.
they had their hearts
It's
set
all
on
right.
these two corners.
all
When I
right.
talked to Dallas this week, I said, man, there's a good chance we're not going to be there. And they're like, oh, my gosh, if they're not there, I said, if you really want him, I think you got to go up for one of them. And, man, it just, but it just, when I talked to him, it was those two corners and Micah Parsons. I'm like, we got to go defense. We have to help ourselves with the defensive side of the ball there. But I do think that they're taking calls also for anybody who possibly wants to move up. And we're in a situation now where I told you guys this is the start of the draft. Okay, if Mack Jones didn't go third, which I didn't think he would.
Yeah.
These quarterbacks would now drop all the way out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Right? We said that going in, right at the early set. These two quarterbacks are going to drop down out of the top 10. So they're going to hope that somebody – look, Washington's one of the teams have been calling to move up. Obviously, you can't do that with Dallas, right, because it's in the division. Man, a team like Miami was trying to trade up, but that's not going to be for a quarterback. So these two quarterbacks could really drop a lot further than everybody thought.
So here's the thing. What we're looking at a scenario now is the New England Patriots, whether they wanted to entertain a quarterback or not,
They got their choice.
They're going to be sitting at 15 with their choice,
With their
potentially,
choice,
of
yes.
quarterback. Because when we look right now, none of the teams between Dallas and New England needs a quarterback.
Right.
And so it could be that blinking light, Justin Fields or Mack Jones waiting for the Patriots.
What about Pay? Well, what about Kwity Pay?
Love him.
Love
Love him.
Edge rusher. Like,
Love him,
one
but-
thing that they love in Dallas is somebody who can come
But
off
who
of
would
the
you
edge.
take, Kwity Paye or Parsons? Like, Parsons is
Parsons
he's
a-
one of those
Parsons
top.
a
That's
better
what-
player.
Look at you hating on Penn State.
I'm
like,
not
oh,
hating on Penn
listen,
State.
We need
I'm-
to have an intervention with you
Listen,
right now.
anytime I'm
LaVar.
throwing out names, I'm just throwing out names for you guys to give me a little bit of opinion.
Listen, folks
on
at
it,
home,
that's all.
LaVar. See, I told you. So now Dallas. Look at that.
Oh,
They
wow.
traded with
alert.
Philly.
Trade
They
with
traded
Philly,
to the
okay?
Eagles.
So
So-
Micah is going to the
No.
city of brothers.
No, I'm not saying that
They don't
also.
take. They don't take
I
linebackers.
think this for
No.
Devonta
Ever.
Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if they go or a Slater. I don't know if they thought Slater would be available there with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, man,
They're
just
gonna
when I
spend
told
it
you that
on,
trade
on Smith.
But this is exactly what I told you. I said Dallas is going to try and get out
Yes.
if they didn't have those two,
Right, those two
corners
corners.
there, and they have exactly that. I didn't think they would trade with Dallas, and here they are trading with Philly. Philadelphia
any
is always
chance-
looking
So
to
the
win
Eagles-
Any chance
The-
they get a quarterback?
The Eagles jump
No,
in front of the
not for a
Giants.
quarterback.
Okay, so that's what happened. The Eagles were 2 down. They
That's
jumped
a good
in front
question.
of the Giants.
It's a good. They said it's
Oh,
an
that's what it-
open.
okay.
They
Yeah.
said it's an open competition at the quarterback's position. It's a new head coach. You're not married to Jalen Hurts, and nor did he
But
play
the
enough.
Giants weren't going to take a quarterback, were they? Like,
No,
they
no,
could have
no.
stayed there.
No,
to take
this
a
is not for a
quarterback.
quarterback.
So
They're
this,
not
this,
trading.
has to, this has to be
No,
for
but
the wide receiver.
but
then, huh?
well, it could be for the receiver. It could be for Slater too. They love Slater. They love the guard from USC. They love obviously Devonte Smith.
Elijah.
They were, I think, when I talked to him, they were hoping that a guy like Waddle would drop all the way down. All of a sudden, he didn't. Right. So, man, I thought Slater would be gone by this time, but I think they thought that also.
So now the Slim Reaper.
So now there it
Wow.
is. The Heisman winner, Devonte Smith. The Eagles keep drafting wide receivers every year. Like at some point,
they pick up a third-round pick. It's great for them.
Moving his thumbs like that ain't text messaging. That's scrolling.
Yeah, that's scrolling.
That's scrolling.
IG.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He entertaining himself.
Just waiting there. It's showing Devonte Smith on the screen in the room. He's got the little purple on tonight. I love
it. You got the monogram?
With the DS. Big DS monogram on the lapel. That is styling. So now with the trade, Cowboys have traded the Eagles. Eagles jump up 2 spots, give Dallas a third-round pick, and now where are they going to go, right? So we say it's not quarterback. Could be offensive line. Could be Devonte Smith.
Receiver.
Yeah. Again, they took Jalen Reagor last year in the first round. Justin Jefferson was on the board. They passed over him. They took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside 2 years ago in the second round. He obviously has not panned out. Do they have the guts, Howie Roseman and company, to go back to wide receiver again?
Yeah. And look, Slater's sitting there. Lane Johnson, I know he's coming off a gruesome ankle injury. I actually trained with him 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And, man, the ankle's disgusting. But he had a lot of stability. He's able to push off it. He was so far ahead of where I thought he'd be. And, man, for someone like I wouldn't worry about it now where Lane was. I think he's going to come all the way back to where he was. And he was banged up a lot last year. So, I don't think you got to look at it and go, okay, well, we have to worry about Lane Johnson being out. So just a side note here for the Philadelphia Eagles.
The largest glaring needs, in my opinion, for the Eagles, linebacker, receiver, corner, QB, tackle, and edge rusher.
The whole roster.
I mean,
so with that being said,
the whole roster to trade
with that being said, you take the best available on your board because they have so many glaring needs on their team.
The one thing they typically
I don't think you go for position. I think you go for highest rated on your draft board. That was the point I was going towards before y'all jumped on me.
Now they typically don't go for linebackers early. They don't. That's not a position that they value or covet.
But if he's the highest rated guy on your board, do you take him? If you're Bucky Brooks, it doesn't matter who. I'm making a general statement.
If I'm making the pick for Michael Parsons, but the Eagles don't draft linebackers high. That's not their thing.
If you have that many, and I'm not, it's not. This is not a debate for it. I'm saying if you have that many needs,
like I said,
do you take the highest rated guy on your board?
But I thought they were hoping Waddle gets down there. So if all of a sudden Waddle's not there, then you got to go the other guy, right? So you got to go Devonte Smith. If you're trading up, and
it makes sense,
you got to go Devonte Smith, man. I know what you're saying about. We've talked about lineman and linebacker there, but you got it. If you're hoping Waddle's going to come down, and there's Devonte Smith sitting there, you got to go. And especially when I talked to him today, they thought that the Giants were going to go Devonta Smith.
And
so
think
they're
about
jumping them. I think they end up going Devonta Smith.
That makes perfect sense because the Giants figured the two things they were looking at were wide out and corner. Well, now if they take Smith, the top wideouts and the top corners are all gone, right? It makes sense why they would make a move like that.
I thought their biggest need is edge rusher. I feel like the Giants need an edge rusher. They need a guy who
we're talking about Philly. So Philly is right.
Well, I was just responding to what you guys are saying about with the Giants. So it's like if you're going to make a play as the Philadelphia Eagles right now, you definitely, to me, again, I say you take the best player available because you can't go wrong on getting the best player available because you need players everywhere. But then now you have the Giants who are going to be picking after. I would assume that the Giants are looking at what their situation is and looking at an edge rusher.
No, so Philly thought the Giants were going Devonta Smith.
Right.
That's why they're jumping up over.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So they're going to take Devonta Smith to keep the Giants from getting that pick. I can see that happen.
So the pick is in. Again, the Eagles trade with the Cowboys to jump in front of Dallas for the number 10 overall pick. And Dallas, they'll get the Eagles pick in 2 picks. They'll also get a third-round draft pick. That's the compensation there. And we'll see if the Heisman winner is indeed off the board and the Eagles do go with Devonte Smith to add to Reagor and to add to Dallas Goedert and give Jalen Hurts his old buddy back from Alabama. So Roger Goodell up to the podium. Eagles selection about to be heard. And let's see. Philadelphia Eagles, their pick after the trade with the Cowboys.
Alabama, roll tide.
Waiting for it. Roger's having some time spitting out the words. Here we go. Let's hear it.
With the 10th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Devonte Smith, wide receiver, Alabama.
Too good to pass up. And now, what are the Giants thinking? They're like, oh.
Real quick, let's just go back to this. So when I was talking to Howie Roseman this week and some coaches in there, he kept saying, do you think any chance Waddle can come down? Do you really think? What about Devonta? Devonta's going to go to the Giants, right? Again, they were convinced that he was going to go there, which is, that's where sometimes the mocks kind of get in and get in people's heads where they feel like they do have to jump up. And you know what? They probably did. Okay, but now it's interesting. If Dallas, they dropped down, and if a Micah Parsons wouldn't have been there, right, where do they end up going? So it's just interesting what happens here. If the Giants end up going Micah Parsons, but the Giants have Slater on the board for them right now.
I can't believe
what
he
you
fell
don't
out of
have
10.
are those top 3 receivers anymore. Then it drops down. So I think this draft kind of gets a little clearer right here with some of the guys when you start looking and go, all right, who's top 10 picks? Slater we had up there, the guard we had up there, Micah Parsons we had up there, and then they start dropping down. That's when you go, okay, this is great value right about here.
He is explosive. We know that. Bucky, you talked about the very beginning of the show, though, about his size. It's definitely something you have to consider. How will it translate, do you think?
I wonder. So this has to be all about Nick Sirianni having a plan for making sure that he can keep him able to get free access. He can't allow him to get bumped. He can't allow him to get jammed a lot. But this is an outstanding route runner. This is a guy that you want to scheme up big play opportunities for him. Put him in the slide, put him in motion, let him get one-on-one on safeties with a running start. We saw Steve Sarkisian do that repeatedly for him at Alabama. He's a big-time player.
And Jalen knows him.
Yes.
Right? He's worked with him. So
there
that's
we go.
Third receiver to a third quarterback they paired him with.
Pairing him up with guys that you know. And so
third the
skill set.
All 3 receivers have gone to quarterbacks they already know.
Skill set wise, Devonte Smith is the most skilled receiver in my humble estimation.
He's the best route
draft.
runner.
Yes.
Absolutely. He's the best route runner.
Skill-wise, yeah. So I think it's an interesting pick. This is the trend. You're hitting on it, Jay. The trend is you're putting familiarity with familiarity.
Guys, little breaking news here. The Giants are going to trade the pick to the Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears are moved up now with the Giants. Again, those quarterbacks are sitting there waiting to see if it's for a quarterback or not, if they can move all the way up for a Justin Fields or a Mack Jones. Or again, some of these other players that are sitting there, like a Slater. Or, if they come all the way up for a Slater,
they've got to take a quarterback.
That's going to be tough for them, right?
I mean, they have to.
There has been a trade here. The Chicago Bears are moving up to this pick with the New York Giants.
Glaze, just dropping scoopage everywhere, my man. Look at you.
It's got to be for a quarterback.
Okay, so which quarterback?
Mack Jones.
In Chicago?
Really?
You think Chicago gets excited about Mack Jones?
I think so.
Why? You had Fields 3 in your mock draft.
Well, here's the reason why I would say Mack Jones, and the reason why you get excited about him is because I think a lot of people had Mack Jones off the board by now. And for the simple fact that which I'm not hearing a whole lot of people saying that Justin Fields would be off the board. For me, I would lean Justin Fields, me personally, but I think Mack Jones is kind of cerebrally thinking probably the guy that they would get excited over. I mean, it looks like they're partial to Alabama in this draft anyway. Hate. That hate was real. Was it real hate?
It was. Yeah. It was so real.
Real.
So real.
I mean, they're in need of a quarterback. It's so funny because on my mock draft at 20, I had them taking Trey Lance at 20, so as a receiver. But
I talked to Ryan Pace early in this offseason. We were just talking about different trades because they were in it for Deshaun Watson. They were going to be in it for Russell Wilson. He's like, man, there's just so many picks involved. He said, how do I give up so many picks? I said, Ryan, if your buck gets fired, they're not your picks anyway. So you got to do what you got to do here. And that's exactly what they did again because, man, they gave up next year's first-round pick, next year's fourth-round pick, this year's fifth-round pick to move all the way up there. And, by the way, the New York Giants under Dave Gettleman, I don't know if he's ever made a trade back there.
The first time.
Right? First time he's ever traded all the way back.
He's never traded. That's not in his DNA.
So this is the second time Ryan Pace has traded away
Justin Fields
an awful lot to move up in the first round.
Oh, no. They didn't rolled out on the draft.
Yeah, Justin Fields, they showed his couch. There's nobody there. Now they're coming back.
Hey, you guys are on live television. Yeah, we're over this.
No, you know what they did? They told him he took the phone call off air, maybe. Maybe he took the phone call off air.
He does look comfortable and confident.
Let's see what happens here. But
my man to the right looked very happy and satisfied.
Maybe they got something.
Maybe they had a snack.
They had a little snack. Maybe they had a snack.
They all came in way too calm and cool.
This was, if it's between the two, Mack and Justin Fields, they'll end up going Justin Fields here. And, not because just the family walked off.
We're now basing picks off of the demeanor of how they walk back on
we
camera.
walked in, it was like the dining room, and then we come back,
They
it's full.
did come back in.
Think of how things change.
Very
here,
calm
right?
and cool.
People
and
ready to run them
smiles.
out of town, then all of a sudden you go get a Justin Fields, and I bet you they're going to be celebrating now in Chicago. Like I said, make sure, Ryan, they're not your picks anyway if you get fired. So do whatever you have to do to make sure you get the right people in so your butt doesn't get fired.
Can I ask a question? How many GMs get to take a quarterback in the first round twice in their tenure?
Right.
Not many.
Not many.
Right? So he's got to get
within
this
4
right.
years.
Got to get right.
Not only that,
Within 4
2
years.
in the first round, and you traded for another one in Nick Foles.
That's a great point.
And then you signed Andy Dalton as a free agent.
Yikes.
One of them has to work.
Andy Dalton just if this is Justin Fields, Andy Dalton just threw the phone
I
against
played
the wall.
in Washington.
He just threw the phone against the wall.
I played in Washington, so you can't surprise me with quarterback talk. Just so we're
You
clear
have
on
seen
that.
it all.
I have seen.
yes.
I've seen them all.
You have officially seen it all.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So a lot has gone on here in the last couple minutes, right?
Yes.
This
Just to
still allows
recap.
Dallas to get their defensive player, right?
No,
They're next,
I
right?
mean,
Dallas is
Right.
Dallas
So
is at
they
12.
can still sit there and get Micah Parsons, get that defensive player. But man, this was big for Chicago. A lot of people thought Chicago could be one of those teams. Washington's one of those teams who could move up for a quarterback. Justin Fields, we didn't know where he's going to go because Chicago was so far down, but they go up and they go get their men. It'll end up being Justin Fields. It will not be Mack Jones.
All right, Roger Goodell coming up to the podium. The Bears make the trade. The pick is in. You think it's got to be a quarterback, right? Ryan Pace being aggressive. Who does he get? Who is his man going to be? Goodell announcing the trade right now. So, again, first the Eagles trade up. They get Devonte Smith. Then the Bears trade up with the Giants, and they give up first round this year, another first-round pick, and a couple of other picks as well. Dallas is going to be next after Chicago after all this wheeling and dealing right now. Eagles get Smith, Dallas waiting in the wings, and now the Bears making their pick. It's just got to be a quarterback. Remember, the only one on their roster right now, Andy Dalton, who they signed. Of course, played with Dallas last year, came in when Dak Prescott got hurt, but you knew there had to be something else in the works for Andy Dalton, and it looks like you'd have to think this is the play for Ryan Pace and company. But we wait for the official announcement. Roger Goodell is thanking a lot of people, and while he does that, we'll tell you that Draft Night Live on Fox Sports Radio presented by NetSuite. Right now, NetSuite offering one-of-a-kind financing program for your business at netsuite.com/draft. That's netsuite.com/draft. Glad to have you aboard tonight as we take you through the first round of this NFL draft, where there's been some action going on here in the last few minutes. LaVar Arrington,
Yes.
Bucky Brooks,
Hello.
Jay Glazer. I'm Kevin Burkhardt, and the Chicago Bears making the trade with the Giants.
Field of dreams.
Here we go. Number 11. There's a lot going on. Maybe they never announce this pick.
Maybe not.
I mean, all right. I think we
Here we
finally
go.
have it. Let's hear it. The pick is in for Chicago.
With the 11th pick, the Chicago Bears select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State.
I'm just calling it. He's going to have the best out of all of them.
I like it.
Justin Fields is going to have the best career out of all
Be
of them.
bold.
The only thing is, like, you have to put the play caller, and I don't know if the play caller can support him
Okay.
correctly.
Justin Fields is going to have the best.
No. I think
Career out of all of
Justin
them.
Fields is the dude. I just wonder, with Matt Nagy, we've seen a bunch of different quarterbacks in Chicago. So
What did we just say? What did we just spend the last 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes speaking about? They got to make it work because of all the times they've made it not work.
mm-hmm.
This is in his favor. This is in Justin Fields' favor. Again, I don't understand the reasoning behind why he is as maligned as he is as a player. Maybe it's because of the reputation of Ohio State. Don't know, but
We'll find out.
bold prediction.
Once again, Jay Glazer, Kevin Burkhardt, LaVar Arrington, and Bucky Brooks.
That's right. A lot of action the last couple of picks with trades, Eagles and Bears, and now with the Cowboys moving down in that trade with the Eagles. They just made their pick. Let's hear it.
With the 12th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State.
LaVar, your guy.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love this pick for Dallas. I mean, you think about it. The best football players at that position are guys that are fearless, that understand how the flow of the offense works, and have multiple skill sets. Like, you're talking about a guy that played running back in high school, defensive end, wrestled, ran track, played basketball. So, we have specialized kids these days, and now you're talking about somebody who has so much development and still such a high ceiling. So, I mean, I'm surprised it took this long for him to go, but man, to go to Dallas with that roster, and they're working on their defense, which a lot of people were wondering. I think this is a great move.
So what Dallas did, again, they were hoping for one of those corners. Micah Parsons was their fallback. They said going in, if we can't get the corner, we're going to trade back, and our hope is Micah Parsons. And it went exactly how they were hoping. Real quick before we have, like, LaVar, I asked you before, Bucky and I were talking to you because we knew you knew him. We said, why is he so different? You said he's a difference maker.
Yeah.
In what way is he different than some of those other stars that have come out of the last few years? Again,
a lot of what I've experienced watching him is just his ability to always be at the ball, Jay. And again, I've made comparisons, and maybe it's not fair to throw Ray Lewis out there, but I've only seen Ray Lewis get off of the pals as much as I've seen Micah Parsons get off of pals. So that's what makes him different to me, is he's always getting off.
Yeah, that's right. We're back. Draft Night Live, first round of the draft. We've got you covered tonight here on Fox Sports Radio. We're presented by NetSuite. You're still running your business on QuickBooks, more like quicksand. The bigger your company grows, the faster you sync with outdated software. So right now, NetSuite offering a one-of-a-kind financing program. That's special financing at netsuite.com/draft. netsuite.com/draft. All right, a lot of action, trades. LaVar very happy. His guy Micah off the board to the Cowboys. And now, Glaze, Chargers, Vikings. Are we in offensive lineman territory now?
I think, look, you have Rashawn Slater still sitting there, and people think, I talked to the head coach about him today. He's like, he's a 4-contract guy. He'll get 4 contracts in the NFL.
Like that
Put him
guy.
right in there. I talked to Dan Campbell about both those tackles yesterday. Loves them both. Same thing, like these guys that could start for you right away immediately. Let's go to the Chargers selection here.
There you go. Roger Goodell up at the podium. The Chargers, will they protect Justin Herbert with this pick on the offensive line?
Of course
Certainly.
they will.
That seems to be the way to go. Why don't we hear it now?
With the 13th pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Rashawn Slater, offensive lineman, Northwestern.
So if you're the Lions and the Chargers, kind of had these linemen fall into your lap. You feel pretty good, I would think, right? Sewell,
it's a bad boy right there.
And now Slater goes to the Chargers, help out protecting Justin Herbert. What do you like about him, LaVar?
Oh, well, first of all, he's Big Ten guy. So when you hear about Big Ten guys,
what's that got to do with anything?
Well, that has everything to do with it.
Has everything.
There's the DNA of being smart, hard-nosed, no-nonsense type of guys. The best linemen generally come from the Big Ten. That's how I look at it. And this is no different. I mean, we look at Iowa, we look at Wisconsin and those types of schools that bring, those road graders. But looking at my guy right here, Slater, he's able to move. He's athletic, but he's also a super, super physical dude. When I look at the size and the movement of him, he reminds me of the guy Aaron Gibson back in the day. You guys may not remember him, super big dude,
he was
but
huge.
Very, very flexible.
Wisconsin?
Very, very mobile. And so when you have a guy like that that's nasty and able to get upfield, climb to the second levels and the third levels to be able to make plays, you got to love having that type of guy. And that was why the Northwestern Wildcats were able to have so much success over the last few
Bucky,
years.
would you play him? Would you put him right or left or guard?
I think he can play anywhere. I think you have to figure out where you need him if you're the Chargers. This is a guy that is balanced. He has tremendous technical savvy. When you watched him play last year against Chase Young, completely snuffed him out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is the game that all scouts reference when they were trying to project what he could be at this level. Man, going one-on-one against that, because Chase Young is a dog.
Even Chase talks about it.
Yeah,
Even Chase
animal.
gives him props, which normally that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, he is on it. And so the Chargers, man, you talk about the rich getting richer, helping Justin Herbert be able to throw from a comfortable pocket. This was a no-brainer for him when he's on the board.
And don't forget, they signed Corey Linsley, too, from the Packers. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about major upgrades, right? One of the best centers in the league. Now they go and get help in the draft, and the Chargers have to love what they're doing under Brandon Staley. And that puts the Vikings on the clock now. Their pick due in 2.5 minutes. Are we staying in the same area?
Yeah, look, actually, I just got a text from Minnesota. They're trading the pick.
Wow.
The Minnesota Vikings just told me they're going to trade. When I talked to Rick Spielman earlier today, he told me there's a couple guys they really like, but weren't in love, and he was going to try and trade down.
So this will be the third trade of the first round. And if I'm looking overall on some themes in the first round here, LaVar, if you're Mack Jones right now, he's sitting there in the room, and, obviously there's
at the draft.
At the draft. When you look at realistic destinations for him the rest of the first round, New England?
Patriots are his only chance,
right?
If you ask me. I mean, there's an outside possibility that it could be the Washington football team. I mean, is there an outside chance that it could be the Colts that possibly?
No. They're looking to go the other way.
Outside. That's the other way.
They're looking to go it's the New York Jets. The New York Jets are trading up.
Then it's only Patriots and Washington. That's his only chance of getting out of the first round.
It might be an offensive lineman.
The New York Jets, again, the last look, when you look, and I'm waiting here, obviously I'm texting
which would
right
be
now,
USC.
But him and Darius are the two offensive linemen kind of right all the way up there in the first round that are left. But USC, man, he was such a quote-unquote sure thing for so many people. Even if he gets beat on that first move, he's one of those guys who could really make up for it. Once he catches up to the speed in this league, man, that's going to be really strong for them. So, again, I don't know who they're trading up for yet. I just know it's the Jets, Minnesota. Again, Rick Spielman told me earlier today he was going to try and trade out of that spot exactly where he was. He wanted to move down later on in the draft and get a little bit more value.
Well, if it is an offensive lineman for the Jets, you think about this, right? Obviously, they have the new quarterback. They took Zach Wilson, number 2 overall from BYU. They need to protect him. They drafted Mekhi Becton last year, who had a pretty good year and showed you some good things. So if they do decide to go that route, it would make some sense to try and protect this kid who, Bucky, you pointed out, does not have the biggest frame, right? You got to try and give him some time to throw. Is there any other area you think that the Jets – I mean, look, they need help.
They got to build up. They got to build up the fortress. They got to build up the offensive line. When I think of the transition that they're making, stylistically, run game wise, you got to have some guys that can move and kind of climb and get to the next level. They want to put this zone-based running game in. And as we talked about with Zach Wilson, that frame, you want to make sure that he's protected.
Yeah, and again, once there's going to be a drop off here, and I think the Jets look at it and say, "Man, you have a guy in Vera Tucker who's the offensive lineman for USC who." Many teams had in the top 10. I do believe this is who their target's going to be because there was a massive drop-off after this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that's who Minnesota wanted also if they did sit there. But, again, this is the type of draft that teams are going, man, we're not so in love with people, so we're going to tend to move down. But when there's a drop-off at a certain position and that's your last guy, that's what we saw with Devonte Smith with the receiver. Now we're going to see her with an offensive lineman. Yeah, they end up going Vera Tucker. I believe they go Vera Tucker.
Don't be surprised if Christian jumps up in there. I know you guys aren't respecting his gangster. Y'all not respecting the gangster.
We respect this thing. I think when you talk about Vera Tucker, there are scouts on the West Coast that said they viewed him sometimes ahead of Penei Sewell when it came to playing the game. There were guys that had him rated ahead of Penei Sewell. So when you think about Penei Sewell and this class, those first 3 always included Vera Tucker. So,
do you think he plays guard or tackle at the next level? Because I guess he's.
I think you can put him at right tackle to start, and if he fails out there, then you can kick him inside. He has all pro potential if he plays guard, and so a lot of it depends on how you want to cobble your offensive line. Do you want to make sure that Wilson is protected up the gut? Then you put him in there. If you want to make sure the edges are protected, then I think you bounce him outside the right tackle.
Yeah, I would second that. I would agree with that.
So Joe Douglas trying to rebuild this Jets team, right? I mean, he trades away Sam Darnold. He's had enough of that. They bring in, obviously, the new head coach, new system. In essence, Shanahan's system here going to be run. Robert Saleh is going to run the show. Zach Wilson's your quarterback trying to build the line. They make the trade up with Minnesota, and the pick is in, and it looks to be.
And I know Jet fans are going to go nuts because I'm from, Jersey and New York, and this is what you tend to do, especially for an offensive lineman. But we just talked about it, man, and there's not a lot of linemen that you feel so great about in this draft. He was one of them. Like Bucky just said, some People had him over Sewell. Some people thought he can immediately come right in, whether he plays tackle or guard. But he was a pretty sure thing for a lot of guys in this draft when there's not a lot of sure things.
Let me ask you a question. You're talking about draft drop-off. After Vera Tucker, is there an overall we're not even talking about, lineman or receiver. Is there an overall talent drop-off now? Do we go to the next tier of the first round?
Yeah, you go to the next tier. So the next tier at offensive line, offensive tackle, you talk about the Darrishaws, the Tevin Jenkins, the Jalen Mayfields. Some people will throw in Eichenberg from Notre Dame will be in that conversation. We've seen Dylan Reynolds get some conversation about possibly being in there, but the tier drops off.
You have the center from Alabama who's just a big medical concern, but he could play, but he's a huge medical concern, right? So that's where now you start dropping off. But also, by the way, we still have not had a pure pass rusher in the draft.
That's amazing.
Still not had one. I know Micah Parsons is a pass rusher, but I'm talking about one of those edge rushers. He's a linebacker.
Right,
we have not still had a pure pass rusher in this draft.
Which is crazy.
We haven't had a D lineman go in this draft.
We have not had a D lineman.
We haven't had a linebacker, a rush linebacker.
We haven't had a
end,
safety
if you will.
go. We have not had a safety go.
Safety will go later on, but
man, safeties make it shut out. This is one of those drafts where we talked about the star power was on offense, some select defenders on the perimeter at cornerback or whatever. We saw Micah Parsons go. The edge rushers were always a huge question mark because you just didn't know which one you could trust and depend on to be an elite player at the next level.
Let me guys ask you a question. So you guys believe that the receivers' talent has fallen off from at this point?
Yeah, there's a
by the way, I am getting word, all right, that the Patriots, I do think they end up going quarterback here. Okay, now let's see. Somebody's texting me from in there that they're going to end up going Mack Jones. Waiting to see if they do, but it'd be interesting that they would go first-round pick ranking Mack Jones. But we know how close Belichick is with Nick Saban, so I could see this happening. All right, this is obviously not Belichick, but I could see them finally going Mack Jones. And then, man, I know
that'd be my one shining moment.
Arizona's
so far.
hoping they go Mack
because I've been off on everything else.
LaVar's like, I
got to get one.
Meanwhile, the Jets selection is in. Let's hear it.
With the 14th pick, the New York Jets select Alijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman, USC.
Right on it. And the Jets move up to get their guy and fortify that offensive line. And so now, Glaze, you say the Patriots, who didn't have to move. There was so much talk early. Would they be aggressive? Would they jump up, try and get a quarterback? Well, the one quarterback that is left right now that they say is a first-round type guy is Mack Jones. This could be the guy. Do you like the fit?
I just wonder what it looks like with him coming in behind Cam Newton. Like, he doesn't have the biggest or strongest arm, and I know he has all the intangibles, and Nick Saban is going to sell him hard. It'll just be interesting to see what that looks like because now you have Josh McDaniels tasked with building two different offenses.
Right.
Well, but that's the thing. Josh McDaniels never really made the offense for Cam Newton.
Yeah.
He never really did.
Yeah.
And if they really went all in last year, probably would have helped him out a lot more. Early on they did some, but after he went out with COVID, came back, didn't really –
They didn't tweak him.
Yeah, they didn't tweak it enough for him. Now they get a guy in Mack Jones that is a lot more for –
It fits that. He fits that style of offense.
What they're going to try and do. So even though Cam Newton re-signed there, it was kind of like a fake bloated one-year deal. And certainly you have him there still – because I don't know if you want to throw Mack Jones right in. That's kind of not, I don't know if we don't know what their style really is.
So
right, because they've had Brady.
So here's what's going to be the funny thing when Mack Jones shows up, right? Because when Mack Jones shows up and we're throwing at mini camp or camp, Cam Newton is going to dwarf him.
Oh yes,
physically.
Yes,
and maybe even from a talent standpoint. And it may look
personality-wise, he certainly.
It may look different.
It may look bad.
It's going to feel different. It's going to feel bad.
The only reason I say this is because Cam can dirt hop some of those things. But if Cam, say his shoulder and stuff is right and he's throwing, it is going to look different. It's going to be like looking at a fastball pitcher and then the knuckler comes in.
It don't look as good.
But it's the truth.
It doesn't look as good.
It's just going to look different. It's just going to be different.
You still get a strike, but the knuckler just doesn't – it's not as impressive as watching a fastball.
It's going to be different.
Yeah, it's a little different. And it just Cam is so physical. And so here's the thing, though. If you are – let me throw this out there. All that being taken into account with Cam going there last year and with COVID, never really have a chance to kind of assimilate into things and still recovering from the shoulder. If you're the Patriots and you're drafting Mack Jones right here and the pick is in, we're waiting on the announcement, isn't he going to start?
You give him as much time as you possibly can.
You're going to give him time.
Yeah, in my opinion, you give him as much time as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think
if Cam can buy him a year, you got to give him.
Yeah,
you got to give him that year.
I think you have to give him time. But then the other thing would be the leadership vacuum, right? When you talk to the Patriots players and they talk about Cam and how he's in early and all that other stuff, that his personality is big, and him and Mack Jones in that same room, it's going to be interesting.
I think it totally introduces a new leader the right way. If you bring Mack in, he learns under Cam, learns the system, and then the transferable power to him after being there. It's the same thing that happened when Drew Bledsoe was there and Tom Brady was drafted. I mean, it's different. He's in the first round if this is him going to the Patriots now, but it's still in premise. It's the same concept.
And that relationship with Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, it's just, I'm surprised. Even when I got the text a few minutes ago, I was surprised that they're actually doing what we all knew they were going to do.
No, the relationship makes a whole lot of sense, right? I mean, you think if they're taking him, they got quite the endorsement from Nick. That's just the bottom line, right? And so now the Patriots, such an interesting offseason. They spent all that money for it was such a different feel for them in the offseason. And now, do they get their quarterback of the future? The pick is in. Let's hear it.
With the 15th pick, the New England Patriots select Mack Jones, quarterback, Alabama.
He ain't stopped at go. He ain't stopped for 200. He came in hot, boy.
He's hot.
He was walking. That was not a stroll. That was not a strut. That was a speed walk.
Yeah, he's hot.
He's been waiting long enough.
He's been. I mean,
when I got drafted, Mack was still waiting to get drafted. I was already in D.C. on a helicopter, looking at FedEx Field, heading to the tailgate party. I don't know what that feels like. I mean, to have to wait that long to get drafted, but I heard it is not a fun deal.
Well, aren't you just braggadocious over there?
I was just being funny.
I had to wait 48 picks. Yeah. It felt like an eternity.
Did it?
Yes.
It felt like an eternity waiting for that second pick, too.
Yeah, I mean, like.
They was like, the NFL draft, I was like, dang, this is taking a long time.
I was on the third serving.
Ooh.
This third helping of food and everything. Like, I've already eaten twice, slept.
Man, nobody
woke back up. Yeah.
There was no real hands that had touched my buffet food when I went to get it. In fact, y'all were eating my germs by the time y'all came up to get your crab legs and
by the time
shrimp and all that stuff.
You probably didn't even have any creases in your suit. Did you sit down at all?
I didn't even get the tags popped off. It just all happened way too quick.
Out of curiosity, did you take a helicopter here tonight or no?
No.
I mean, why not? Just stay in character.
Hey, I mean, why not? I don't know. You got a big step. You know what I mean? That's all.
Hey, Cardinals are on the clock. Their pick is coming next. We'll see what they do. Draft Night Live.
Linebacker.
netsuite.com/draft. While we were away, the Arizona Cardinals made their selection. Let's hear it.
With the 16th pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Zaven Collins, linebacker, Tulsa.
Zaven Collins, a linebacker from Tulsa. A little surprised, but they loved him all along.
Yeah, not well. Look, sat down with Steve Keim, the general manager of the Cardinals, about 2 weeks ago, and we were going over all this, and he said back then, man, he loves Zaven Collins. He actually kind of compared like his body type to Brian Urlacher, and he's like, he loved what he was, but he didn't think he was going to be there. And as this started getting closer and closer, he kept asking me, hey, have you heard? I said, I haven't heard him anywhere above you, but man, they loved him. Vance Joseph loved him. And this is 2 years in a row where they go that linebacker with that first round pick. Last year they go Simmons.
Right.
This year, obviously, going with Zaven Collins, but they fell in love with Zaven Collins really early on. Mike Tomlin, I talked to him about him. He really liked him because he looked at him in the same way. But, Bucky, he's a different kind of linebacker.
Different kind of linebacker, old school linebacker. LaVar, we talk about an old school Sam linebacker, someone that you traditionally will walk over a tight end, let him beat up on the tight end, and be a factor in the run game. The thing about it, when you watch his tape at Tulsa, he not only plays inside as a Mike linebacker, you see him come off the edge some. He's heavy-handed. The one thing I would worry about, the fact that he's walking around at 270 pounds, we're going to have to get him down in the desert and have to get him on that workout plan. He can't be 270 pounds at linebacker.
And by the way, the Raiders pick is going to be in. They're going to surprise people here on this one.
This is a big draft for them.
LaVar, yeah, it's a big draft, but I think this is where you start reaching for guys. This is where where nobody has everybody in the same. Like I just said, Zaven Collins, they thought for sure he'd be a top 10 or 11 pick. I think with the Raiders, they got to look at offensive line and go, oh my, who's out there now? And it's probably not the names that you would normally think. But real quick, I want to get, hey, LaVar, we're talking about them. He is a big linebacker, right? And where do you see him as a Mike? Do you see him as the Sam? Can he rush the passer? What would you do with him? With Zaven Collins?
Well, I think I'm with Bucky on this one. I think that you got to look at him as a sound backer. And like to deal with those longer type of tight ends, those tackles. You're basically, you have a defensive end that is able to move better than a defensive end and play at the linebacker's position. So I like him at the sound backer's position. Just looking at the way he moves on film, he is a bigger body. He may be built like Urlacher, but he does not move like Urlacher. So there's the big difference there. So I think that Zaven would be best served, like probably closer to the ball, being able to put his hands on tackles and tight ends.
And the Raiders, again, they're going up here. And you know that the Raiders, man, they've been going trenches the last couple of years. They're going to, man, I just think they're going to end up surprising people over here who they take.
They traded their entire offensive line in the offseason. I mean, they tore the whole thing down.
Go safety.
In the offseason. You would think they need that, but they need a lot. And this is a big draft for Mike Mayock and John Gruden.
Go safety.
Roger Goodell up at the podium. The Raiders have announced their pick. Let's hear it.
With the 17th pick, the Las Vegas Raiders. Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle, Alabama.
I didn't even have him rated as a first-day guy.
No, so here's what I'll tell you about the Raiders and what they've done under John Gruden and Mike Mayock. They've tried to use the Warren Buffett philosophy when it comes to drafting. They take guys from brand name schools, big schools, so Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama. We've seen them kind of dip their foot in that pond a few different times. The thing about Leatherwood, he fits John Gruden's old model for what he wants as an offensive line. Gruden has always had these big, massive offensive lines with 300, 320-pound guys so they can kind of beat on you in the running game. The problem with Leatherwood, man, the explosive pass rushers off the edge give him problems. And I just wonder, in that division, when you have to deal with Joey Bosa and Frank Clark and the Miller, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, man, can this dude hold up? Well, that's going to be a problem.
Here's the thing, and this, look, when I just got texted there and somebody in that room told me they were going to do, I didn't say it because I was like, no, this can't be. Right? So even though guys are telling me, sometimes I'm like, man, it can't be. And this was one of those selections like, nah, I just don't see it happen. You have a Darrisaw who's still sitting there. I just don't see the Raiders going here. So I didn't say it. I didn't repeat it. I was like, no, nah. And that's why I just said, it's going to be something you don't really think about. Don't, surprise. And sure enough, that's who they were going with. As LaVar said, you didn't have him up there.
No, I didn't have him as a first round.
I didn't have him up there in the first, or probably in the second. Yeah, probably had him in the second round.
I had him as a second-round grade, but I did not have him in the first round. And listen, everybody has their own ideas of what they want the identity of their team to be. He's, this young man is he's an attitude guy. He's good attitude, great energy, high motor type of guy. So, he inspires. And maybe when you bring in a guy like Leatherwood, it brings an identity, it brings an energy to the unit that you're looking for. Because you want nasty and you want guys to be excited about being nasty up front. So I'm with you, Bucky, on the idea that he does have to strengthen himself. Get on those rice buckets. Make sure you're getting those hands nice and strong. I don't know that he upper body wise he's strong enough to hold up under the circumstances of which he's going to be thrust into.
And right about here is where you'll start to see a run on some of these pass rushers. So Jalen Phillips, he's the top rated on everybody's board pass rusher, but there's been issues. But man, Miami, going down to Miami in Florida, it saved his life. Right, it saved him, right, because he was not doing good things up here. Then you have a guy like Kwity Paye, right? You have, you have the Wake Forest,
Boogie Basham.
but Jalen Phillips is, and then Rousseau from Miami too. Jalen Phillips, is the best pass rusher in this draft. And because it's Miami, I think Miami ends up, I think they take a flyer here, but I think you'll start seeing a run here on some of these DNs and those pass rushers right now.
So here's the thing, Jay. You talk about Jalen Phillips. Best thing he did, he left California and got to Miami. I also think being in Miami with the guys at the U impacted him in terms of trying to develop that dog mentality. Right. Because this is a 5-star athlete coming out of high school that has all of it. But he also is a rare, explosive athlete who has great hands. His hands, I call him Mr. Miyagi when you watch him on tape. He's waxing on and waxing off all day. And so in Miami, where he gets to stay where he was at, I think this would be a great pick and a great fit for the Dolphins.
So the Dolphins making their second pick of this first round. The first one they got, Jalen Waddle. How about this one? Let's hear it.
With the 18th pick, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Phillips, edge, Miami.
How's your board looking?
I mean, I got that one right.
There you go.
I got like
you got Mack right?
I got like 4. I did get Mack right.
You got a big teens.
I got a couple right. I got the 1 and 2 right. I got the number 1 pick right, y'all.
These last couple, you're doing well, dude.
That doesn't count, by the way.
Hey, 15, 18, okay. You nailed.
I did. I got 15 correct.
As long as you got them in the neighborhood. So if you get them in the first round, you're good. You can't always get them in the right house, but if you got them in the neighborhood, you're good.
I did get this pick correct, fellas. Just so we know.
2 of the last 3.
This dude's pro day was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. He took some luster off of Greg Rousseau, who everyone was expecting to be the tester. He tested well, and then when you turn on the tape and you watch him get after it, it's a good thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and look, out here in Los Angeles, sometimes it swoops some of these kids up, right? And then all of a sudden they kind of get into the wrong scene out here in L.A. You can get in the wrong scene in Miami, yeah. But there's a certain scene here in L.A. If you get in the nightlife scene, it could certainly swoop you up, and it did here for Jalen Phillips. He goes down there to Miami. It really changes his life. And, if he didn't have those issues out here, and he stopped playing football.
Yeah.
All right? So that's a big thing.
He's really caught up.
He stopped playing football. So he can go – he was going to be a music producer or, something along those lines, which I've seen it happen to a million kids out here. So many kids come out, they think they're going to be a rapper or a producer or something along those lines because you see so many successful ones out here, and they think it's just easy. And it's not easy. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, man, God blessed me with the ability to do something great on a high level, and I just gave that up. And hopefully Jalen Phillips saw that because talent-wise, he could be special.
The 6'5", Washington football team is up next.
Yeah, they are. I think they'll take a defender as well. Probably
you should be excited, right? This your old team. You should be excited about that, right?
Sure. I think they'll take the middle backer from Notre Dame. Let's see what my draft board says. Let's see what my draft board says.
What is it?
I love that dude.
Koromoa?
I love him.
They need a linebacker.
Love him.
That's who's on my board. So. Just on Jalen Phillips for one more second. The one thing I like about him is he's not a specialist. He can go 3 downs. You can put him in on first down, and he has the size at 260 and the movement and as you mentioned, the good hands to be able to play the run. But he also has the athleticism and the good hands to be able to actually play the pass. So that is a super, super ridiculously good pick for a team that is already – I don't know if people realize how loaded this Miami Dolphins team is right now.
It's really a lot going to be on Tua, right? I mean, now there's no safety net. Fitzpatrick is gone. He's in Washington, as a matter of fact. So it's really going to be a lot on him and his growth and what can he do to carry this team because they are loading up. And as far as Washington goes – Ron Rivera goes there. I mean, amazing considering what he had to deal with beating cancer last year. Alex Smith, comeback player of the year, him coming back, leading that team to the playoffs.
Comeback player in a decade, century, yeah.
The story is crazy. So, the turnaround so fast. They signed Fitzpatrick. They still don't know their quarterback of the future. They need help where? Linebacker, like you said, LaVar. They could use offensive line, something that they're looking for there. Maybe if they decide to go that route, your guy Darisaw is still out there.
He is. I think that he would be a great fit. And Darisaw is from the area.
Yes.
He's a local kid. So we just saw a local kid. Well, not a local kid, but played locally in Coral Gables and now going into the Dolphins facility. But listen, one thing about Ron Rivera that you will always know, he's always going to be signature with who he has playing at the linebackers position. That's his DNA. That's what he comes from. That's what he cut his teeth on. And then when he went to Carolina, he brought us the likes of Luke Kuechly Thomas Davis. You know, so look for him to bring in a guy that has a signature style to him. So I'm thinking South Bend, and if I'm right, then you know, right now I'm kind of strong at this point in the draft.
With maybe, you know, you think about that, if they decide to go that route, already their defensive line is so good. Chase Young came on last year, was terrific. Middle of that line, so good.
Payne,
linebacker,
Allen.
Certainly would seem to be a fit.
So we're thinking linebacker. So we talked about Jay. Okay, another guy to just keep an eye on.
Okay,
maybe the Kentucky kid.
The Kentucky kid, yes.
Jamin Davis.
I like him too.
He's been rising up quite a bit in the last week or so. There's a couple guys.
I like
Elijah
his
Moore.
movement.
There's a couple guys that really have moved up in the last 4 or 5 days, and he's one of them.
I don't like him for the pick if he is the pick, but I could see how that pick makes sense. And listen, if there's a guy that's going to know how to develop linebackers and at that position, it's going to be Ron Rivera. So, you know, I like the kid out of Notre Dame personally.
I love that kid out of Notre Dame. Love him.
Yeah,
love him.
He is still out there. Jeremiah,
but he's more of a tackling machine than a pass rusher, obviously. You know, I'm shocked that Kwity Paye is still sitting right here. You know, I think Kwity Paye is a man, and man, there's not a lot of downside to him. I don't think they used him right out there in Michigan. You can do an awful lot with him. So there's still, this is, again, good value for pass rushers.
The next 3 teams on the clock need pass rushers, though, right, Jay? I mean, after this, you got Giants, Colts, and Titans.
But Jamin Davis is, he's one of those guys. Bucky, you're right. He started flying up this past week or so.
You know, I love what Washington did in the free agent market getting Curtis Samuel, because now when you think of their skill position, right, you got McLaurin, who's terrific. Antonio Gibson really flashed last year and showed you what he could do, kind of a college wide receiver / running back / hybrid. Question is quarterback. I guess it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. We saw Taylor Heineke start in the playoff game. They signed Fitzpatrick. Right now, though,
Kyle Allen.
They do. Right now, it's their draft pick. The pick is in for the Washington football team. Roger Goodell has just gotten to the podium. Let's see where they go. Let's hear it.
With the 19th pick, the Washington football team select Jamin Davis, inside linebacker, Kentucky.
I'll tell you what, day by day, they look more and more like a basketball team on that defense. Holy moly. All right, so Jamin is 6'3", so now he's going to come in and be 6'4", 235, so he'll probably be like 240 before it's all said and done. You got 6'5", basically all the way across the defensive front.
Those front guys are great. They need a guy who can clean up, kind of like Devin White does in Tampa, right?
Yes.
And Devin Bush does in Pittsburgh. They need somebody who can clean up sideline to sideline, and that's what he does.
/draft. The New York Giants traded down in their pick initially when all the wide receivers were taken off the board, and so they make their selection right here. Let's hear it.
With the 20th pick, the New York Giants select Kadarius Toney, wide receiver, Florida.
So Toney, kind of the next tier of wide receivers after the 2 kids from Alabama went, and of course from LSU at the top of the draft board. So here is Toney. He ran a 4.37 at his pro day. Bucky, what about the fit here?
Okay, so this is the thing I would say about the Giants. The Giants would never admit it, but they missed a playmaking ability that they gave up when they traded away Odell Beckham Jr.
Great point.
And so for 2 or 3 years, they've been trying to find these guys that could make plays that Odell can make, and they can't. So Toney gives them something that's not Odell-like, but he's a catch-and-run specialist. Yeah. He's terrific with the ball in his hands. And so these short passes that Daniel Jones can throw to the perimeter, this guy actually can take him the distance. And so even though they will position Kenny Golladay as the number 1 receiver, this will be the designated playmaker. Yeah. They need him, though, to step on the field right away and make an impact, because this is make or break for Daniel Jones.
And you could do things like you do with Tyreek Hill with him, right? You could jet sweep him. You could do all sorts of things. So now you have Saquon Barkley coming back. You have this kid where if you get in his hands and you got to worry about him, intermediate, short, long range also. You have guys like Golladay. You know, they still have Ingram and now bringing in Kyle Rudolph. I mean, and they still have a receiver from last year, obviously, right?
Shepard
and Slayton, right? So to get somebody like him, he's a different weapon than everybody else they have on their team. But there's so much more you could do with him. I actually like this pick for the Giants.
Here's Percy Harvin.
Oh, that's a good call.
He's a Percy Harvin type.
Same school.
Yep, same school.
Good.
Same number, too, I believe. Was it Percy Harvin one? Maybe
that was
wrong.
a long time ago.
I could be wrong.
You got me digging in the crates.
It's all right.
I
think he was number one, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like Percy Harvin moving. I'll tell you this. When you look at his
I'd want somebody moving like Percy Harvin.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, I will say this. In the NFC East, it lines up for him to have the type of success because you are getting Saquon back. They have to open up the defenses from the running attack. That's what they're used to doing. I mean, if you look at classic New York Giants football, when you're talking about Brandon Jacobs or Tiki Barber, the run game has always been the catalyst. So you get Saquon back, that will give them the opportunity to get guys like this involved in what the offense, the flow of the offense could be, and make it better. They're long run plays is what they are when you have players like him.
The problem, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this, LaVar, I don't know your thoughts, but if Daniel Jones isn't any good, it doesn't matter. Right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
But that's why you want long runs, not long passes. Right. You want long runs so you can run missile screens, tunnel screens, all kinds of different ways of getting the ball out quickly. They're passes, but in essence, they're really long runs, is what they are.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's really what they have to figure out. So the Colts are on the clock right now. Of course, their big offseason move, getting Carson Wentz from the Eagles. If you just turned us on tonight, some big storylines here today. We started the show talking about Aaron Rodgers, who did not get drafted tonight, but all the talk about him being unhappy. Glaze, you had this, not going back to Green Bay. So we haven't seen a move that's involved him yet tonight, but certainly dicey, and they're at a kind of a standoff.
Real quick here. So
news.
We talked about I'm just getting text from inside the Colts. They were originally going to look to try and move out of the spot because they didn't think some of those pass rushers would be there. Mm-hmm. They didn't think a guy like Kwity Paye would sit and
they're all there.
They didn't think that some of these other pass rushers would be there also. So they were going to look to actively get out of this spot. We talked about it earlier. Kwity Paye just sitting there from Michigan, he's still there. Ojari from Georgia, he's still there. Owe from Penn State, he's still there. Bastion from Wake Forest, he's still there, right? You have a lot of these pass rushers. Osai from Texas, he's still there. Yeah. And I think Chris Ballard looked at it going, we could trade down to get any one of those guys if one of the elite ones aren't there. If a guy like Kwity Paye isn't there, then all of a sudden he's sitting there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they go. I know they're discussing it right now because they're still talking about trading down. But if they don't, I think they end up sticking here with Kwity Paye.
So here's the thing about Kwity Paye and Alijah Ojulari.
Yeah.
When you think about the Colts defense, this is a defense that's built off effort and physicality. Matt Eberflus just talks about running to the ball. They run, they play hard. They don't care about size or any of those things. Kwity Paye is the twitchy athlete that is the perfect fit for that Tampa 2 system that they want to play. They are built to play with the lead. You're thinking that Carson Wentz is going to help them offensively. So if they're playing from in front, you have to have a pass rusher. Kwity Paye would certainly fit, but also Azeez Ojulari, any of those other guys that Glaze named would also fit. But Kwity Paye is the twitchy athlete that you typically want as the edge rusher in that defense.
Azeez is more of a speed guy, lighter weight, not maybe more of a specialist.
One-trick pony in my mind.
Right. Okay.
All speed.
But when you look at Paye, that's an every down defensive end there that can dominate against the run and can also get to the quarterback in pass situations. So Paye is definitely the guy. I mean, it's amazing that he's still sitting on the board right now.
In terms of character, his story is incredible.
Oh,
I mean,
unbelievable. I had a chance to see it, unbelievable story. Just like, man, the promise that he made to his mom about, hey, if you let me go to this academy, go to the private school, I promise you that you won't have to pay for college. And, man, to bet on himself like he has, the motor is there. The only thing that you worry about a little bit with Kwity Paye is for all of the twitch and explosiveness, you don't see a lot of sack production.
But isn't that how Michigan used him? Man, they stunted him a lot. They didn't really – I don't think they really highlighted him there.
No.
Yeah, I don't think they used him as best of their ability.
Moved him around too much. Sometimes you want to kind of see him major in one position as opposed to kind of minor in a bunch of different
Sometimes
things.
You got to be playing ahead to give your pass rushers an opportunity to pin their ears back.
A little dig. A little dig from the Penn State guy.
A little dig at Go Blue, huh?
No. Well, Go Blue is actually Michigan. I mean, they've just just needed to put a few more points on the board for guys like Kwity to have an opportunity to get sacked. That's all.
But you're right. I mean, Kwity Paye was born in Africa, and then what his family went through, and basically, I think he was in a refugee camp.
Yeah,
right?
They're from Liberia, and when Civil War broke out, and they were essentially burning houses down, so that his mom grabbed him, and they had to get out of there.
His mom never saw her father again, so that was it.
He was one of them.
He's one of those guys that he comes in the league already, and he's a guy who you don't have to worry about what his work ethic's going to be. You don't have to worry about if he's going to try and be great, right? He's he knows what he's playing for.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about that. I remember having a conversation with Mike Tomlin. He's talking about you need to know the guy, what's your why? Mm-hmm. Well, you understand when Kwity Paye comes in the league, what his why is, and you don't worry about the trappings of the NFL lifestyle impacting the way that he performs and the way he goes about his business.
Yeah. Too many of these cats nowadays, they come in and they want to be famous instead of being great. Yeah. Being famous is not the same as being great.
I
don't think Kwity Paye is going to have a problem with that, right?
Not the same.
He's got a famous name, though. I'm sorry. You can't shake that, Kwity Paye.
You won't have to worry about that with Kwity Paye.
Yeah, you won't
and that's
have to
big.
shake that.
And it's those character things. You guys are talking. This year's such a different year. A lot of these guys haven't been able to get out and actually see these guys in person. Or there's so many things now without the combine. Kwity Paye, the characters there. Production, will he fit in Indianapolis? The Colts pick right now is in at number 21. Roger Goodell has just stepped to the podium. Let's see if they do indeed go pass rush. Let's hear it.
With the 21st pick, the Indianapolis Colts select Kwity Paye.
Oh, there you go.
Defensive lineman, Michigan.
Colts have to love that pick. Just love that pick.
Like I said, they're going to try and get out, not thinking that Kwity Paye was going to be there. I talked to Chris Ballard this morning. I forget. It's all running together, man.
This week.
It's all running together. And he was like, he was telling me, look, who do you think wants to trade out? Do you know if anybody wants to? Because I just don't think. I said, well, if you're sitting there, who are you hoping for? He's like, they're not going to be there. I'm like, who? And Kwity Paye was one of the guys he named. He's like, it's not going to happen. And all of a sudden, there he was.
Yeah, so there you go. So
he's
that
a grown man.
The Titans on the clock.
You see, he had his Black Panther, jacket on, and I'm talking about the superhero Black Panther.
Yes.
Just so everybody's clear. I don't want to cause any confusion.
He is an explosive.
He's a grown man.
I mean, he's an explosive dude off the edge.
Jeez.
Explosive.
It's just strong, just a strong, aggressive, good with his hands. He's able to shed blockers very well. He can attack that. Just when I say strong hands, when you watch Kwity Paye, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
And so the second pass rusher is off the board. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock. Officially in this first round, the Titans are on the clock. Pick number 22. We've had some action in this first round. We've had some trades. A few of them, as a matter of fact, involving the NFC East. You heard a couple of those on the clips coming back, and now the Titans about to make their selection. As we get to the bottom of this first round here, and, most of the big-time stars are off the grid, and now Roger Goodell steps up to make this Titans pick. Really, you talk about intrigue left.
There's still one name that we thought was going to get chosen earlier, and it won't go here to Tennessee. But Darrishaw's still sitting there.
That is true.
And if I'm a team, I am like, man, there's still that one guy left. I'm either, if Minnesota doesn't do it, I'm trying to trade up with Minnesota, but I know Minnesota need an offensive line help also. But that's the one guy, him and kind of Elijah Moore, but Elijah Moore you can see down here. But, man, Darrishaw's the one guy of all the guys we had. We're a little surprised that still, because
I've just
been looking through my list going, who are we missing here?
I had Caleb Farley ranked very high. Let me tell you where I had Caleb Farley out on my list, and he's just now gone to
He had the
Tennessee.
injury, though. He had the injury.
3 injuries.
I'm just saying, though. I mean, the guy is in the draft, and he's ready to go first round. I mean, you still got to give him a little bit of love.
Microdiscectomies on his back and ACL in the past. But
yeah, I said that to you earlier. You gave me that same answer, right? As soon as we came in the studio.
Yeah. That's right. I said
Caleb Farley's my. I had him as my number 12 guy on my big board, and my number three cornerback. But you know what? It takes a team like a Tennessee Titans with a guy like Mike Vrabel to see somebody's trash as their treasure. I mean,
wow,
why not, right?
We paid the voiceover guy a lot of money. Can we hear him announce the pick?
Yeah.
With the 22nd pick, the Tennessee Titans select Caleb Farley. Cornerback, Virginia Tech.
Is that you doing the voiceover?
It's not me.
Is that why you got a little sensitive?
If it's me, I can tell you I didn't get paid a lot of money to do it. That's a fact. That is a fact. All right, so there you go. You guys were obviously talking about it, but we have to be official with Farley. And
hey,
so,
Minnesota's got to jump all over Darisaw. They got to jump all over him because they were even talking about guys like that early, up there where they were originally until they traded out with the Jets when they were sitting there at 14. They got to go with a guy like Darisaw. He'd be like the last guy we still have on our board. But hey, go back here to Farley. I know you like him.
I do.
Bucky, again, if you were on a team right now, would you be comfortable with those injuries that he's had?
I'd be worried about the back because it's twice. He's had it twice. It shut down, prematurely shut down his 2019 season, and then he had the surgery right before the draft. So I would worry about it. Now, you picked him. He's a talented player. Mm-hmm. He's athletic. He terrific instincts and ball skills and those things. I don't think he's as fast as people portray him to be, but I think he is fast enough to make plays on the perimeter.
Just so you know, I've ruptured my L4, L5 4 times, L1, L2 twice, herniated C2, 3, 4, 5, and I still run an 8.640.
Oh, wow. What about if you had to have shoulder surgery on your right throwing arm?
I had it. I had it September.
Like that. Would you?
I had labrum and 2 rotator cuff tears in September.
Who you talking about? You going back to the quarterback?
I mean, I'm just saying.
Going back to the
you guys are true athletes.
I'm just saying we're throwing out.
I'm not athletic.
Critical injuries that could be critical to what your performance is, and we had a guy that went fairly high. Like number 2 overall and had to get his throwing shoulder repaired. So I don't know. Go call me crazy. But, I mean, if I'm thinking about a cornerback and back surgeries versus a quarterback having to get his throwing arm reconstructed, I mean, which one is going to be worse? So you got to take a chance. I mean, take a chance on the guy. I mean, he's still playing, right? He just went on the first day, too, by the way.
Listen.
That's first-round pick right there.
I mean, you went on the first day. So, I mean, something happened right even with those back surgeries is all I'm going to say.
We shall see.
Just saying.
Once you have one, your life is never the same. It just keeps going. It's never the same.
I could
once
never
you alter
stop.
That once,
I couldn't stop. Once it happened for me, I just never stopped. It was like all the time for me. I was like really into it. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but I do. Now you can work with me and figure it out on your own.
We're thinking you're talking about back surgery.
It was a tad bit of comic relief. That's all that was.
Oh, there you go.
We're not giving you any space here, LaVar. We're not giving you any space just because we fear for our jobs.
I understand. I have been doing this radio thing for quite some time now, though. I do know
kind of a big deal around here.
You kind of a big deal. That's what you're going to say.
Did you really go here with the Anchorman thing?
No, not
kind of a big deal around
here. But not so much here.
You have many leather-bound books, and you're known to hang out with Merlin Olsen.
I am Ron Burgundy.
Yes.
Good show, everyone. Good show.
Great show.
Well done. Well done.
You stay classy.
Done.
Yeah, there you go. Stay class. Show tonight. If you just turned us on, and if you're somewhere and you didn't know what's gone on tonight, Trevor Lawrence went number 1 of the Jags. Zach Wilson, the guy that LaVar is talking about the surgery, he went 2 to the Jets.
Okay.
Trey Lance to the 49ers. That was the thing that started to stir this draft up a little bit. Pitts goes to the Falcons, and then you go down, Chase to the Bengals, Waddle the Dolphins. You saw some trades there. The Eagles jumped up with the Cowboys. They took Devonta Smith, the Heisman winner. Then the Bears made the trade. They go up and get that deal with the Giants who fall back because they wanted Smith and they were out of luck. And the Bears get Justin Fields. That the biggest surprising move, the biggest move of this first round, Glaze?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, I think them going all the way up there and getting Justin Fields was the shakeup, if you will, of this draft, without a doubt. And again, everybody had Mack Jones going 3. I didn't see it happening. Just when everything I was told, I didn't see that happen, and I knew that was going to throw things in flux. And going into this draft about a month ago, people thought there'd be 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 8 picks or something along those lines, right? And they thought it was going to go to Atlanta. They thought there was going to be one going to Carolina, one to Denver, and I just didn't see that happening. So they didn't slide as much as maybe I thought they would, but they slid obviously into the middle of the first round.
I'm not surprised by it, and here's the quick reason why I'll tell you I'm not, is because you're talking about a team that was really actively pursuing a trade with one Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Now you get
and
a
Deshaun
younger,
Watson.
Now you get and Deshaun Watson, but in terms of comparison-wise, Justin Fields is comparable to the playing style of one Russell Wilson.
Well, the Minnesota Vikings pick is in.
Finally!
Let's hear it.
With the 23rd pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Christian Darrisaw, offensive lineman, Virginia Tech.
So just to give you a little basis here, they traded with the Jets, right, Bucky? The Jets go Vera Tucker. The Vikings go down quite a ways, and they get Darrisaw. So who made out better here on this deal?
I mean, Vera Tucker is an absolute dude.
Oh, my God.
I mean, he's an absolute dude. Mm. He is. He has inside-outside versatility.
He's a dude. Is
now,
a guy.
Look, I told you, Darrisaw is the guy that's standing at, look, he's the bounce. He's the nightclub bouncer who's telling you, no white tees, no Timbs. Got to get out the club. So he throws them out the club all the time. However, Vera Tucker's versatility was the deciding factor for me.
What I have here on Darrisaw also, at worst, he'll get in your way, which is good, right? Because you want to make sure that
y'all cold-blooded right now.
At worst,
Bucky Brooks' laugh is the worst. It's the worst in these moments. I've hated it on SF1. I've hated it anytime we've been in a debate. I hate that laugh.
But you guys are getting it. You guys are getting wrong what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, even his biggest mistakes, he's still going to be there and get in your way and not hurt you. That's what I mean. A lot of other guys, man, they're going to swing, they're going to miss, and they're going to hurt you. With Darrisaw, he's either going to get you, but at worst, he's going to get in your way. So he just doesn't give you a clear swing to the quarterback.
We're just messing with you, Glaze.
Yeah. All I know is Darrisaw
and by the way,
is a grown
Pittsburgh
man.
is on the clock here, and, man, if they got linebackers sitting there, but when I talked to Mike Tomlin earlier this week, he loved Najee Harris and ETN. He did love the Notre Dame linebacker. But, man, when we were talking about it, I was like, Najee Harris, man, if you could pick him up, he obviously changes your offense immediately. Man, I love the dude. I love the makeup of the guy. And here they are, Pittsburgh sitting there. I think Najee's the guy they end up going.
Glaze, when I look at Najee,
make sure I don't mess it up.
When I look at Harris, how about that? We just skipped the first one. When I look at Harris, he reminds me so much of Le'Veon Bell, not in terms of stylistically, but what he could do. And their offense has not been the same since that separation with LB. When Bell left, they lost that dynamic of the RB1 wide receiver 2. If Harris is the pick, he gives them that ability to use the running back not only as a runner but as a receiver.
I wish I could use your laugh against you on this one right here. Even though I do agree, I still would want to make you uncomfortable with your laugh as if I was disagreeing. But I do think Najee Harris does give them that multi-dimensional back that they've been looking for. And a lot of the reason why they went off the rails last season is because their running game was largely inept. So, yeah, I think that this is a good pick if they do go Najee Harris.
Man, they didn't even try to run it last year. They didn't have a great running game, didn't have a great running back. Najee Harris does make a lot of sense. Draft Night Live, Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite right now. NetSuite offering a one-of-a-kind financing program for your business at netsuite.com/draft. That's netsuite.com/draft. And so here we are at the 24th pick in the draft.
I think we're going to see both running backs come off.
I think we're going to see Harris and Etienne. So
I think they're going to go 1-2, boom, boom.
You think so?
Oh,
I do.
Look, not only that, potentially it could be a reuniting of Clemson guys. Trevor Lawrence,
there you
Travis
go.
Etienne. We've seen all these guys pair each other up with their former teammates. So now he can turn around and just hand it to his guy in the backfield.
Which one? Again, I do, Pittsburgh, like I said, just talking to Tomlin the other day, I know how much he loved Najee, and he said if I had to put, he loved both of them here, but, Najee was probably a better fit. I think Najee goes here, and I think Etienne could go right after that. I think you could have the two running backs go. We were talking about star power, who's left. That wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the way these two fall out.
Steelers pick is in. Let's get it.
With the 24th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Najee Harris, running back, Alabama.
Boy, that's going to work. And so now you think that Travis Etienne could be right
next.
here.
I think he goes, just talking to Urban before the draft, some of the guys that he was having targeted. And again, you got to look how a guy like this who's coming from college does it. Like he said, I'm used to the boards being vertical. I have certain guys we go after, not horizontally. So just in talking to him, I knew he loved Trevor Lawrence going in. I knew he was hoping for a guy like Etienne later on in that first round. So, yeah, I think it's happening exactly how he was hoping. So just in the conversations we had earlier, I do think, and same thing, Mike Tomlin wasn't really guarded about it. He's like, this is who I love. I love Najee, and same thing with Urban Meyer. I think we see these two running backs come off the board back to back.
Trevor Lawrence is a Jag. Will his backfield mate, Mr. Etienne, be joining him in Jacksonville? Guess what? We're going to find out in just a moment. Draft Night Live, Jay Glazer, Bucky Brooks, LaVar Arrington, Kevin Burkhardt, right here, Fox Sports Radio.
Duval!
He's almost to the end of the night, but the Jags are making their pick, and let's hear it.
With the 25th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Travis Etienne, running back, Clemson.
Jay Glazer is so good, man. You're like the walking human cheat code, bro. That's what I would start calling you when I see you. If you hear me scream out, cheat code!
You know what, though? Because I don't do a mock draft, guys trust me to tell me what they're going to do. And then they'll say, hey, where do we need to go? Where do we need to move? Can I move back? There's a bunch of these teams who said, you think we can move back here? How far can we move back? And that really helps out quite a bit. And that helps when, helping build up these trusts. Yeah. And as a result of this, because I don't do these mocks, people don't try and snow me. They don't try and lead me astray where they're going to go because it doesn't help them to.
I thought that Travis Etienne was the best running back in college football this year. Just for the record, I like Najee, I really do, but Travis Etienne is so multi-dimensional. His body control is amazing. His burst and his speed is deceptive. I like deceptive speed running backs. I don't like running backs that look fast and look quick. I like deceptive ones, and it's because you don't really know what you're dealing with until you get in the game with them. And so I like this pick for Jacksonville. I think that they are loading. I mean, all of a sudden, you're looking at Jacksonville. They could actually be competitive this year out the gate.
Here's what one head coach told me about Etienne. He says, you fear a change of pace when he has the ball in his hands. So that's a pretty good statement on a guy like this.
Because you don't know.
You fear a change of pace, and you fear a change of pace when Alvin Kamara has the ball in his hands, right? And I do think that these two guys, I don't know if you say sure or safe or something along those lines, but they're immediate impacts. Both these running backs who came in here with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Jacksonville Jaguars, they're both immediate impacts.
See, I look more towards, and since we're going to Duval, I think about a guy, he's not quite as big, but I think he's strong like a Fred Taylor. Like he's quick, he's strong, and he's fast. See, I think with Alvin Kamara, it's more finesse, right? But, man, when you look at a Fred Taylor can run through your arm tackles. He can make you miss. And when you say I fear your change of pace or your that acceleration from zero to wherever you're getting to is for real. When you deal with a guy that has stop and go and deceptive speed, it is for real, and it is scary because it can make you look really bad on national television. So, not saying it's ever happened to me because that's what you were about to ask me, but maybe it has. Not
many times. Many times.
Maybe it has.
Mr. Pro Bowler. Yeah. Listen, the Browns now are on the clock. Pick number 26.
They're going to go for defensive help here.
Their roster is pretty loaded, isn't it?
It's pretty good, but they're going to go for defensive help here. And, again, this is where it's whoever you fall in love with. There's DBs that teams have stacked all over the place. I know they wanted a cornerback. I know the Saints wanted a cornerback. They're two behind them. I know the Ravens, they wanted more pass rush help because that's what they always do. So, for Cleveland, I think they go defense.
Yeah. The pick is in right now for Cleveland. Of course, this draft being held in Cleveland, so the fans are going to go absolutely crazy right now. But
is that Michael Irvin down there playing with him?
It could be. Yeah. They're up there.
Did you guys know that is a totally vaccinated fan zone that they did at the NFL
I'm vaccinated.
For
I got mine.
the NFL?
I did too.
Wonderful deal.
Yep.
Such a wonderful situation.
There you
man.
go. It's just nice to have fans, right? Last year, everything was on Zoom. And
we hadn't really made mention of it because we've been so deep into jumping into the picks that the fan experience, the fan environment, having it back is amazing. So shouts out to all the fans. Shouts out to all the people who are listening to it. Shouts out to all the people that are watching the draft right now. Such an amazing event.
And by the way, last year, man, think about where we were a year ago. And there were a lot of people who didn't want the draft to happen, and there's just so much. And look, thank God we did, because I think that this country needed back then. They needed that escape. We needed to take a breath. And to get through the whole season the way we have also, I think, man, it helped this country a lot. I do think football, I don't want to be on this like high horse, like, oh, look what we're doing. But I do think as a country, we need a collective exhale. We've been through so much. And from last year's draft to this year's draft, I'm proud of what football did for this country.
I don't think many people thought that the season would get played without missing a week in playing. I don't think that was an amazing accomplishment. I mean, it really was. And now here we are, and it feeling more and more like normal. And now for the Browns, who had their playoff success, obviously, with the rout over Pittsburgh in round one, gave the Chiefs all they could handle. Their roster is looking good. How do they add to it? Pick number 26. Roger Goodell is up and making his way to the podium and about to make it. Who do the Browns go with? Glaze says
they
defense.
Go defense. Yeah, they go defense.
Defensive back.
Yeah, they certainly go defense.
Meanwhile,
I'm saying defensive front. How about that?
Defensive
You
back.
already know? Cheat code.
What do you expect? Hey, Draft Night Live on Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite tonight. Right now, NetSuite offering a one-of-a-kind financing program for your business at netsuite.com/draft. That's netsuite.com/draft. There you go. Mm-hmm. Thanks to the folks at NetSuite as we're heading down near the end of this round one of the NFL draft, and the Browns, now it looks like they are ready to make their selection. How will the fans react to Kevin Stefanski and company making their pick here? We feel defense. It certainly seems like the way with the Ravens, Saints, and Packers on deck. Let's go get that pick for the Browns.
With the 26th pick, the Cleveland Browns select Greg Newsome, cornerback, Northwestern.
It's a good pick. I like Greg Newsome. Big tenor. Mm-hmm. No, this was a really, really strong Northwestern team because their players, Pat Fitzgerald is doing such an amazing job of developing these guys. And, I saw him on my board. I have him on my board. And, when you think about what they were able to accomplish this year, in the Big Ten Conference. I mean, it's I like it. I mean, he's not tall, but at 192, I look at him, Jay, and I say to myself, he's one of those type of guys. He's versatile. He can tackle. So you're getting a corner that can play a physical style of ball. And, he has the size where you could actually possibly match him up with larger guys. We talked about the guys like Kyle Pitts who went early in the draft.
No.
With the size.
He can't match up with Kyle Pitts.
Well, the point is, I'm not going to say he can match up with him, but what I'm saying is he has like that longer, wiry Jalen type Ramsey, the Cromartie type of build, where he would be able to at least line up in front of guys with the type of size and stature.
I'd like to see him play faster. And again, but you look at the DBs, right? Farley, a lot of people looked at it like, he's going to drop down because of the injuries, and he was like overall talent. It was Surtain and Horn and Farley, or Horn, Surtain, Farley, and I just thought because of the injuries, man, he wouldn't go, and all of a sudden he went there. But the next level were Newsome, were Georgia, were Asante Samuel. Or Campbell from Georgia. There's a next level of defensive backs here, but again, it's who you love, right? So now you have a couple pass rushers still and linebackers, and it's just who you love. There's receivers who you love. So, and a guy like Newsome, that next level of defensive back, of cornerback, he's definitely in there.
You don't love him.
No,
you don't love him. I can tell.
I don't love him because I think he needs to play faster, but he's in that next level of corners. he's definitely in that second level.
He's a long
He's in that
strider.
second level.
You don't like long striders. That's what it is.
Let me say this. If you just look at Cleveland right now, how he fits, okay? You guys differ a little bit on opinion, but just look at their offense loaded. Obviously, skill, talent, offensive line, maybe the best in the league. One of the best running backs in the league defensively. Myles Garrett maybe could use another rusher. They got Tack McKinley. But how about the secondary now? Denzel Ward. They go and get John Johnson from the Rams, who is a terrific safety, one of the most underrated guys, I think, in the league. They bring over Troy Hill also from the Rams to add to that secondary. And now you're going to put this kid in there. This is a good roster. This is a good team right here. So we'll see how Newsome fits in for Cleveland. Meanwhile, that brings us to pick number 27 with the Ravens on the clock.
Ravens look at it going into this. It's pass rusher, receiver. Pass rusher, but receiver. But they got another pick coming up here also, right? So it's pass rusher, receiver, pass rusher, receiver. They do, right? Didn't they just pick them up, right?
Just tell me Oway, Jay.
It's not going to be Oway.
Darn.
Well, they lost Matthew Judon, so they've got to find a way to replace that.
The guys
production.
they liked up here were, they liked Bateman from Minnesota, receiver.
Mm-hmm.
They liked Elijah Moore, the receiver. They liked Russo, and they liked Oway.
Running a 4.36 at 245 pounds and 6'5" as a defensive end. What's there not to love about that?
No, I'm not saying though. Those are the four guys I think they're looking that they're kind of locking in on.
So it's a possibility. You're saying there's a chance.
No, I think they go receiver here, maybe pass rusher next.
Okay.
All right. I think they go, but the receivers again. It was Bateman. It was Moore. It was Rousseau. It was Owa for the pass rushers. So I think they go. Man, I think because I think there'll probably be a little run here on receiver. I don't know. I think receiver here.
They need some help.
Yeah, but you don't have a deep threat receiver in the draft right now. You don't have a game changer in the draft right now at that position. I challenge you. I implore you to come up with a name that is a game changer that you would go with instead of going with.
I like Elijah Moore a lot. I don't think that's where they go here. But I do like Elijah Moore a lot. I think he's a little burner. But I don't think that's where they go.
I think you got to go with an edge rusher.
They signed Sammy Watkins from the Chiefs.
They got to pick a few picks ago.
Watkins.
But he's not a burner either.
No, he's not.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
just
not
saying,
a burner either.
To add to, obviously they got Hollywood Brown, but they need some help there. So, yeah, it's the debate.
You don't have a bona fide one receiver in the draft right now. So, I don't know.
But is there a bona fide one pass rusher at this point?
Good point.
Right? I mean,
possible.
Good point.
I would say pronounced. I'm biased. I will say I'm biased, but I like the kid out of Texas, and I like the kid out of Penn State. I mean, that's
kid out of Texas is an incredible kid.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed to.
The kid out of Texas is a great kid too. But the Ravens, I think they'll wait a little bit to get one of those pass rushers. I think they go receiver here.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Ravens pick is in. We'll get that in a moment. We're waiting for Roger Goodell. Bucky, let me get your take on this here. The Ravens have 2 picks here, and then to close out the first round, we're talking wide receivers and defensive ends. What are you feeling?
Look, at some point they got to get a big body wide receiver, somebody that can be a true number one, someone that can expand the strike zone, someone that can help Lamar Jackson take his game to the next level. And when we look at the problems that the Ravens have had in the playoffs is because their guys can't separate and get open. It has to be someone that can be an impactful player in the passing game.
Okay. The debate rages on. Well, they got 2 picks here. They've got this pick at 27, and they've got 31 right before the Bucs at the end.
I agree with Bucky, though. I mean, they need – look, you got to help protect and build on Lamar Jackson. That's your franchise. So you got to build it up there. But I understand also there's not a bona fide number one, but – man, there's again, this is the time of the draft that you're going to have different projections on different receivers and than everybody else.
All right, so Roger Goodell is making his way to the podium for the Ravens. Pick 27 of this first round of the NFL draft here on Fox Sports Radio. And why don't we get that pick from Baltimore?
With the 27th pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, Minnesota.
All right. So
I
like Bateman. I do like Bateman. He's a big play type of guy, big receiver. I like Bateman. And he's a playmaker, too. I will say that.
It's like Bucky just said also. They need a big physical guy.
He is big and physical. And he makes plays. I mean, I like Bateman. I do. I will say that. I do like
I think
Rashad
once Tony
Bateman.
went also,
He
there
beat
people
Penn
going,
State
all right, we
by
got to
himself.
start going after receivers. Who do we need to have a run on?
I mean, look, the Ravens are better offensively right now, right? I mean, I mean, there's no question with him fitting in. Maybe he's not a 1A guy, but they certainly, with he and the addition of Watkins, Brown hopefully getting even better, they certainly improve.
I digress. I take that back.
You like
I
this.
take that back.
I
Maybe I was having a brain freeze. Maybe I was too deep into the cold.
Hey, I mean, we're 4 hours into the show.
Rashad Bateman is a guy. I take everything back I said. Maybe I was thinking of someone differently. Maybe it didn't register quite as much as it should have, but Rashad Bateman is a guy.
And again, they're able to take somebody, a couple picks later here because of the Orlando Brown trade. And, now you have the Saints on the clock. And just look, they were trying to get in the top 10, right? And they were trying to get in the top 10 for one of the corners. And obviously they weren't it, but they were really aggressively trying to trade up for one of those guys. Then you look at the rest of the cornerbacks out there. When I said to Sean Payton, I said, look, if you can't move all the way up there, who do you like? And he's like, yeah, it's just, it's that thing again. It's like we just got a bunch of guys lumped together there. But, man, if we look at this, again, this is just where now who are you in love with?
I mean, they need a wide receiver too. I mean, look, there's so much going on with New Orleans. Obviously, Sean is going to have that team motoring, but Drew Brees goes. He said it's going to be Jameis Winston. We'll see how that plays out.
It'll be both.
It'll be a combo, right?
It'll be both.
But, they lost to Norris Jenkins. That's thus the need for a cornerback.
But because they also need other – look, there's one guy he told me about also. Oh, man, who was it? Peyton Turner, linebacker from Houston. He was talking to him. Also saying, hey, this guy, we really like him. If he's there, don't be surprised if you hear this. It was kind of one of those things because he was also trying to see. And who else was he saying? He was talking about Peyton Turner. This conversation was earlier today also, so my brain is obviously just mush. So Peyton Turner from Houston was one. And, man, who was the other defensive back? God, there was another DB he mentioned also.
It'll come
that we really haven't been talking about a lot. He had also talked about you mean Davis, the Kentucky linebacker. So he talked about him. He talked about
what about Asante Samuel Jr.?
He didn't talk about him much. He
but
talked
is he
more
going to
about
go here in this first round? I mean,
I don't know. We got a few picks left, but I remember him talking about Turner from the outside linebacker from Houston. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of stuck along those lines.
Bucky, it's interesting. You're looking at the top prospects, and obviously every team's got their needs. But one guy who's still out there, who everyone thought would go certainly relatively high, is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Yeah, that is a big surprise. There was so much love for JOK just in terms of thinking what he could be in terms of a dynamic player as a hybrid safety linebacker type, the speed that you see on tape, how physical he is. I am really surprised that he's still on the board. But, I mean, we haven't seen any safety or any of those kind of guys go. We've seen the traditional players come off the board. It is a surprise that JOK is still on the board.
Hey, Bucky, what do you think of Turner here? Because I think that's where the Saints end up going.
Here's the thing about Turner. High motor player, chases hard off the backside, flashes some pass rush potential, and in a class where we didn't have any edge rushers that stood out, we knew the grades were going to be all over the board. And so if the Saints are really considering taking Peyton Turner, look, he's a guy who has a chance to make an immediate contribution because he's not a finished product, but, man, the upside is there. And they need someone to go opposite Cam Jordan, someone that can play alongside Marcus Davenport. He would be a nice fit for them.
I look at the secondary, and I feel like they should address their secondary with this first pick, but I'm not sure.
But if it's not great, and that's
I'm not sure.
When we were talking,
someone,
he's like, he wasn't in love.
Yeah.
He mentioned him to me. Somebody else mentioned him probably right before and then later in the day also. So his name started rising up. Actually, today was the first day I heard him.
Yeah.
But I heard it from 3 different guys. Which is kind of that's what happens in leagues.
What about looking at the tight ends position? They are in need of a tight end in New Orleans.
Not this high. You don't need
Not this high.
No.
They lost Jared Cook, to your point, LaVar.
Yeah, but they don't need it this high. Not in this draft.
They lost guys. They lost some big names. I mean, obviously Brees, but Jared Cook, right? Janoris Jenkins. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. Trey Hendrickson signed with the Bengals. They lost some good players.
You need some weapons.
And there's still some DBs you could actually trade for in this draft. Xavier Howard, you can still get him. I wonder if, Gilmore from the Patriots last year. There was talk of him, so there still might be ways to get some defensive backs. Mm-hmm. But listen, LaVar, even if you don't love guys here at this pick for a defensive back, you can't just force and go, okay, we're going to make this guy our starter.
No, I hear you. That's what I'm saying. So which poison do you choose? Do you choose what you need at a position where there may not be talent there? Do you look at a position that has talent there that has not been looked at or tapped into as of yet, but say that, well,
I think you don't want to take a guy and regret it and be like, oh, man, we forced my position.
Well, which one
we didn't really like him.
So how do you choose at this point? Do you just take best on the board? How do you choose
best on the board
if you're
for
the
positions
Saints?
that you need? Right?
I don't know.
I mean,
you've been right this far. This far in, you've been right. So I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, I wonder because it's that delicate balance between the best player on your board trying to also fill the biggest need that you have. You hope in most years that those things line up. Sometimes it doesn't. But what you don't want to avoid, don't reach for a player that isn't worthy of being picked at this spot. He's not necessarily graded in this round where it's that fringe first, second round talent. You just don't want to stretch because you have a big need. Take a really good player here because you can't go wrong with good players on your roster.
And they just did take that player. And, of course, Glaze, you're batting 1,000. Peyton Turner is the guy, the rusher from Houston. He goes to New Orleans. The Green Bay Packers on the clock. Fascinating. And if you missed a big story today, we'll tell you why. We come back after this. Draft Night Live. Jay Glazer, Bucky Brooks, LaVar Arrington, and Kevin Burkhardt right here. Fox Sports Radio. The pick is in for the Green Bay Packers. Let's get to it.
With the 29th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Eric Stokes, cornerback, Georgia.
So it was fascinating. They take the cornerback. It was fascinating, Glaze. You started the show talking about the Aaron Rodgers drama. He was saying that he didn't want to go back. They just showed the Packers' war room, and it's almost like they had a hard time enjoying it because their MVP is like, I don't want to come back. Interesting.
And look, and the guy they end up taking, Stokes, remember I was saying Sean Payton told me about a couple guys, and I was too punchy to remember who it was. Stokes was the other one. His defensive back from Georgia was the other one. And, look, they had two good defensive backs over there. But, yeah, with Green Bay, you're still looking and go, man, give the guy some weapons, especially look, whether you go to Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love, you want to help give him some weapons. And cornerback is man, they need help at linebacker. They need help at pass rusher. This is just the same thing. I think Packer fans are probably just going to go nuts about it.
He's a fast guy. He's got speed. I mean, you talk about his track and field reputation. He ran a 10.39 as a 100 meters runner. That is blazing fast. So he's tall, 6'1". He's close to 200 pounds, so he's not a frail guy. So I think that this is a good pick for Green Bay. This is the type of guy that can bolster your special teams while learning the position to be able to eventually start is what I would think.
Bills are on the clock, too. They'll end up going defense also, but they'll go pass rusher. But let's get back to the Packers. And just knowing this going in the draft, they're going to end up taking pass rusher, which I think you add to that defense pretty damn good. But back here to the Packers, man, I know look, 2 years ago, they're a game away from going to the Super Bowl, right? Then they come back. They're a game away from going to the Super Bowl. What could put you over the top? A down-the-line corner is not going to be the one. It's not going to put you over the top.
But we just had the conversation about if that over-the-top player isn't available in the draft. Who is that right now in the draft right now?
I go Elijah Moore. Still, receiver still sitting there.
The bottom line is, so, Bucky, on a day that Aaron Rodgers tells the world that he's, PO'd, they still don't draft an offensive guy in the first round, right? So,
that's not making it better. That's not what the Packers do. Like I'm trying to tell people this from a philosophical standpoint, going all the way back to the 90s. When it came to the wide receivers and the running backs, they traditionally don't spend first-round picks. I know they spent one, 2002 on Javon Walker from Florida State. That didn't work out. They went right back to what they do. They take those players in the second and third round. And because this draft has a bunch of pass catchers that can run around and make plays, they're more comfortable finding those guys there, and they typically save the first round for the quote-unquote marquee premium positions. And it's hard for people to kind of understand that concept, but that's how they've always operated.
What about Rondale Moore? How do we feel about Rondale Moore out of Purdue? 5'7"? Yeah, but I mean, he's a playmaker. He runs great routes. I mean, he's one of those guys. To me, he's worth taking a look at and what it is that he can bring to the table.
He's a running back turn receiver, right? Yeah, when he got the ball in his hands, I mean, look, any of those weapons for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, absolutely, yes. To help out 1,000,000%.
Not yet, as we turn our attention to the Buffalo Bills and defense. So we've seen pass rush here. What about a guy like Gregory Rousseau, Glaze? I mean, this is a guy who was second to Chase Young in sacks in the country 2 years ago. People forget that.
Yeah, and look, he had great production 2 years ago, and then his body has just grown, and he's one of those guys like 240. Now he's 270. He may end up turning into a 3 technique on this level also. I know it's funny because if Buffalo, and I like where you're going with this because they do end up going there, right? Baltimore loved him also. And I know we were talking about if they're going to go with a pass rusher. So I know Baltimore loved him, but I like where you're going on this one.
LaVar, what do you think? Does that work for you here? Roger Goodell is making his way. Hold that thought,
I'm
LaVar.
gonna hold my thought.
Let's hear the selection for the Buffalo Bills.
With the 30th pick, the Buffalo Bills select Gregory Rousseau, Miami, Florida.
What are you guys doing, man?
Let's hear your thoughts.
What are you guys doing? I had Joseph. How you say his last name? Asai. I had Joseph Asai at this pick, so I guess I'm not off because I had an edge guy going.
Well, he could easily go right here to Baltimore, right? I mean, they're looking for the same thing.
Well, I think that they. Again, they really like Rousseau. They were hoping that he was going to drop down. They kind of looking like he could turn into who's their big lineman?
Edmonds.
Who used to be with Arizona? Big, huge Calais
Campbell.
Calais This guy has the chance to grow into such a big body.
Yeah, he's a big kid.
Yeah. And Baltimore right now because he's gone. I know. Yeah, they're trying to figure out what they want to do with this pick right now because I think they were looking at Rousseau could be there. I really like him for Buffalo also, man. And look, that head coach up there does such a good job. He and Leslie Frazier game planning for their personnel up there. I love this selection of Rousseau for Buffalo.
Glaze, he reminds me of Jason Pierre-Paul when Jason Pierre-Paul was coming out.
Okay.
Long, athletic, like ranging in. The athleticism, when you go and you look at the pro days, exact times, size, 40 time, 3-cone, all of that stuff. So when you look just those long arms. And when Jason Pierre-Paul, he popped his second year. So I would tell all the Buffalo fans, keep your expectations in check. Year 1, year 2 is when I would expect Greg Rousseau to really pop as a pass rusher.
And he's 6'7", right? He played about 240, right? And so he played about 240, and now he's 265. But he keeps growing. Yeah, he could be one of those. I think people are looking at him going, oh, is he a 3-4 in? Is he a 3 technique? Can he be outside and stay like a JPP? I think it depends how his body grows.
Yeah. So we're down to the final 2 picks of this first round. The Ravens, who just selected a few picks ago when they took Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota. Well, they've got another one here. And, of course, you hear it looking for a little defense, see if they get it. And then the Buccaneers, who, well, they can do whatever they want because they've re-signed everyone. I mean, every single player, every starter from the Super Bowl team is back. Heck, they just went out and signed Antonio Brown back the other day, so they can go wherever they want to go. That will be pick number 32 and the final pick of this first round. Draft Night Live, Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite. And we're back right here, Fox Sports Radio, after this. Draft Night Live, Fox Sports Radio, presented by NetSuite. You're still running your business on QuickBooks, more like quicksand. The bigger your company grows, the faster you sync with outdated software. So right now, NetSuite offering a one-of-a-kind financing program. That's a special financing at netsuite.com/draft. netsuite.com/draft. Final 2 picks of the first round of the NFL draft, and the Ravens picking for the second time in the last few picks. Their pick is in. Let's get it.
With the 31st pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Jason Onway, defensive end, Penn State.
LaVar!
It's actually Oway.
But hey, we're close.
It's all right.
Hey, we've all had a long week.
You know, we've been on the air for a while.
I mean, it's just the one name. I've butchered names the entire show.
No,
so,
you've been good.
But this one name,
But
I do happen to know this name.
You love him, but look, he didn't have a lot of production stat-wise. Why not? You know him better than us.
Let me clear this up. The Penn State defensive front had this unique, we'll say, rotation. And with that rotation, it really did not allow players to get into a true flow of the game. So when you look at a player like Jason Oway, even when Yetur Gross-Matos was there, it was the same thing. You weren't seeing Yetur dominate games. You were seeing glimpses of what he could be just because they didn't keep them in long enough for them to actually find a rhythm and a flow and get into the game.
It's interesting you say that because I was told about him, it's the same exact thing. And this guy's a sub 4.4 guy. Right?
He ran a 4.36.
That's unreal.
Consistent.
But he's not able to set people up with different moves and different hand fighting. You can't. And there is a chess game that goes on for pass rushers that I don't think a lot of fans truly understand how much there is that rhythm you have to get into. Well, it's a fight.
He is a growing student of the game. He's only been playing football for 5 years. His background is as a basketball player, so he has the movement of a basketball player. He has the explosiveness of a basketball player. So I think he'll be fine. He's got a tremendous upside.
Bucky, what do you think of this particular pick?
Look, I think the upside is tremendous. He's a great athlete. He does a great job of coming off the edge. He's disruptive despite being non-productive. And so now it's about the D-line coach getting with him and helping him map out a plan. And so the athleticism is freakish. It's off the charts. And so now can you teach him how to have a move or two that will enable him to get to the quarterback? But the athleticism and the disruption is exactly what you want. Now we just need to see the sack production.
Now the final pick, Joe Tryon, the linebacker from Washington. The Bucs just put that in the end of the first round. They could have gone anywhere here, LaVar, but they go linebacker. And
I'm aware of who Joe is, and I know Joe very well also and know his game very well. Super athletic, super versatile. I like his range. I like his length.
He's an athletic freak.
He is an athletic freak, and he's one of those guys, just like we were talking about Jason. I mean, he's just one of those guys that has a ton of athleticism, and as he develops, then if he has the capabilities of developing and really learning how to play the game from the pro level, Joe Tryon could be a perennial all-pro type of player at that outside backers position and will be creating a great, at some point, rotation with that group in Tampa.
And Tampa was in a perfect position because, unlike anybody else ever, they re-signed everybody from that Super Bowl team, right? So when I talked to Jason Light going in this draft, I said, what do you think? He's like, no idea. No clue. He's like, we don't, we brought everybody back. So whoever happens to drop down there, and they didn't know who it was. Like we said, he's like, we're going to talk to Brady, and just in case it's somebody like a Mack Jones or whoever the quarterback was that could drop down. They just didn't know who'd be there at that time. Obviously, nor did we, but they were in a different position than everybody else, right? They had everybody coming back.
Yeah, they've only got 2 of the best linebackers in the league. Might as well just add another. I mean, it's like an embarrassment of riches for them. So
it's not even about the linebackers. It's about Shaq Barrett and about JPP. We just talked about JPP earlier. You're talking about a guy in Tryon who's really, in essence, at his core, is a defensive end, but they'll use him as like an X-backer. Like when you get in those third down situations, you move him around. He gets to pick and choose which one he wants. I mean, it's going to have 3 pass rushing athletes like that on one team. That makes this Tampa Bay defense very scary.
Final thoughts. Round 1 is over and about our show, but if you're taking one thing away here, LaVar, from tonight.
Talk to Jay Glazer before I put my picks in.
Well, we already knew that.
I want to throw away my mock draft And from here on out, I'm going to just talk to Jay Glazer about who. Yes, please. Because
I did
what
tell
happens,
you coming in too. Those top 10, I'm like, move this one here, move this here. My guys are good. They are. There's
moments?
trust. You build trust in this league, man.
I really believed in myself. I bet on myself. I did my mock draft. I took so much time. And then I came in here and then I realized that my thoughts meant nothing because Jay Glazer was always right the entire show.
Well, you got at least 4 right, didn't you?
I'm going to go cry in the car.
Why are you Glazer hating right now?
No, I'm like, you're my hero. I'm actually giving you my props. I'm just sad I'm sad you're not saying I'm your hero. I mean, that's just kind of what it is. But I think I'm Mike Harmon's hero, so that's a good thing, you know.
Man, look, going into
levels.
this also, how about this? The 49ers smoked everybody, right? They showed the world. And, they kept it so close. I think Trey Lance probably had a pretty good idea. Look, they were always asking his quarterback coach every day, make sure you send us, what his daily progress is, right? So he might have had a little bit of an idea, but they never let him fully know. So all those mocks, who had Mack Jones going up there, obviously it threw everything in flux. But, man, 49ers, it started there, and then the Bears jumping up for Fields.
Atlanta won.
There you go. Well, guess what?
Kyle Pitts.
Fellas, it's been a blast.
It has been a blast.
It's been great.
Good to be with you tonight. This has been Draft Night Live. Jay Glazer, Bucky Brooks, LaVar Arrington, and I'm Kevin Burkhardt. As now